Hey guys, what's up guys? How's it going? Here, let me bring up the other page here because apparently I gotta set it up here, apparently. How's it going, guys? So it's like slightly lagged on my end because, well, it's not lagging, but I have to have another page open to see the chat because I don't know how to set it up any other way, unfortunately. So how's it going, guys? Hey, Faye. Hey, Zero. How's it going, buddy? Hope your channel is doing all right so far. If anybody hasn't seen his channel yet, check out Zero Option. He's got a cool style, I like his style. Hey, Luke. Hey, Gordon. What's up, buddy? Who else is in here? Gator. I promise to be a good lad. You better be a good one, or otherwise Gator is gonna get rid of you, buddy. But hope everybody's having a good night. I got the mug again. Also, I got my Streamlabs, or not Streamlabs, working. My Google, what do you call it? So I can actually do invites now. So I could potentially invite people. Now, there's my fucking cat again, being a little fucking cunt. But now I can invite. Let me see this here. Copy. Close. Let me go in here. Here, I can put it in the chat even. I can put it in chat. Somebody could even come on potentially, but I might have to like get a fucking headset if I do bring anybody else on. Here, 1 second here. Do I have my headset? Like, might have to set this up soon if anybody does come on, because I got it on mute at the moment, so I don't hear. What do you call it? Hello, hello. Okay, no. Hey, RIP. How's it going, buddy? Okay, I got on mute there, but yeah, I got the hangout there in there, so whatever. Maybe later I'll do a call in, or somebody can just go to that fucking chat, or I'll give me their email or something, and then I could send it to them directly. But yeah, nice. But Kelly Day helped me out, so I want to thank Kelly Day for helping me. I appreciate it. She gave me some pointers on how to work it. And initially I fucked up. There was some encoder I needed, but I just went to the quick setup and it works just fine. Hey, man. Yeah, no problem, buddy. Using Google Hangout? Yeah, I'm using Google Hangout right now. So I got that set up. Hey, Linda, how's it going? Okay, so yeah, all right. So there's me in there. But what's his name? I know somebody wanted to debate me on Wednesday, Fredrick or something. I don't know, about an ethno state. So, if he's still around, I'll send him an invite. But there was a couple stories today. There was, what do you call it? The CBC president compares Netflix to colonialism. So she's saying that, like, the influence of Netflix is just like what the colonialists did to countries, essentially, and how initially it looks good and it looks like they're bringing good things and lots of new technology, etc. But when they leave, it's crappier and it's worse and whatnot. But in reality, most places that were colonized are often like better than the places that are not colonized. So it's like that's already kind of a bad comparison. But it just shows you how these people are communist, honestly. Like if they don't want competition, that is the thing that they want the least. They're like they're willing to compare Netflix, and I'm not even a big fan of Netflix, considering didn't get my notification. AJ didn't get my notification. Oh, you didn't get it? Yeah, YouTube doesn't send out notifications like that, and they even said, they addressed this a little while ago. They said they only send them out randomly or some bullshit. Fredrick, you have to put AJ Illicits. What it was free. Oh, there he is. Still no mention of my channel in the list. Oh, okay. In what list? What do you want? What do you want from me? I don't want me to put you in a list right away. I don't know. I haven't checked out your channel yet. I'll have to check it out still. I'm busy, man. I got other shit to do. But I'll still check it out for sure. And like I said, there's the hangout thing right there. So Fredrick, but still, I haven't checked it out. Let me check out your channel right now. I'll put your name in. Is your name is the name of the channel, right? So Fredrick Godzilla, no results found. I don't see your channel. Where's your channel? You're on? I don't see you in my hangout. I don't know, the hangouts, I put it in the chat. How do I get a wrench? You have to give me $10, Linda. No, you've been on here for a long time. You can have a wrench because you're a loyal supporter. Linda gets a wrench. Been hanging around over half an hour, yakking with Luke. No mods. Proud MGTOW women are just too disgusting. Oh man, no, they're not. One sec, dude, having issues. Oh, okay. I might have to set up. I don't know. Hopefully it works fine. But it probably would have been better to try doing this, if anything, before I did a stream or anything. Contact you beforehand, but you know, also put your channel in the link as well. Hey, Miss C Piggy. Hey, Mike. How's it going? Wrench power corrupts. Absolutely. That's so true, man. Like, I kind of almost regret giving out the first couple, and then I was like, oh, now it just started like a continuation. I'm like, geez. Hey, rolling shit up. How's it going? Power corrupts. You know, you're definitely right, though. You're definitely right. C Piggy. C. I might have called you C Piggy. I might have. Miss C Gypsy. Yeah, sorry. I don't know. Same thing. C Piggy, C Gypsy, you know, whatever. Don't, you know, it's all the same. But while I'm waiting though, I'll check out this article and you know, I'll read a little bit of what her statement was. So she's like, she goes off. She's like, I'm going to just go a little bit off script, because I was thinking about the British Empire and how if you were there and you were the Viceroy of India, you would feel that you were doing only good for the people of India. If you were in French Africa, she continued, you would think I'm educating them, I'm bringing their resources to the world, and I am helping them. Fast forward to what happens after imperialism and the damage that can do to local communities. So all I would say is let us be mindful of how it is we as Canadians respond to global companies coming into our country. She also compared Netflix to the beginning of a new empire. Now video of her comments has been released, as you can see below. You know, so yeah, there's a video of it in here and you can watch it yourself. I'll put it in the description. And it's just so funny. It's like it's so blatant how it's like they just don't want competition. You know, that's all it is. They don't want competition. Netflix is competition, and they're like, oh, we got to be careful about the Canadian impact on our businesses and stuff. And they always use this. They always appeal to Canada and stuff, like our leaders, and it's like, well, what is this going to do for the Canadian businesses and stuff? And all that means is like we're now going to be paying more money for shit because they're like, you know, fuck CBC and whatnot. It's weird. I saw the Freebird Media. I was watching his stream earlier, and he's like, he thinks it's like a good idea to have the CBC. He just wants like other people to be in control of it. But I'm like, that's never going to work. You know, hoping that somebody is going to come and hopefully take over and be like a good chaperone of the CBC doesn't make much sense. Thank you, Rainy Steps, for the donation. Really appreciate that. Thank you every time. Howdy doody, mister. Thanks, man. But we need to defund the CBC, right? You're cut off, buddy. You can do it in India. I can hear somebody. Can anybody else hear that? Yo, what's up?
Hi, how's it going?
Not
Can
bad,
you hear
man.
me?
How's it going? Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. I
Yeah.
hear some background noise there, though. What is
Sorry,
that?
hold on a second. It's my kids playing games. Guys, can you put it down a bit?
Yeah, man. Use the backhand. Use the backhand.
No, they'll kick my ass.
Oh yeah. They'll gang up on you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. Yeah, a couple toddlers, man. You gotta watch out for that. They're
I'm
brutal.
training them. Yeah, that's right. I'm training them to be, manly and womanly.
Manly and womanly. Oh,
Womanly,
good.
yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So I heard you were talking, the other day. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, and you were talking a lot of stuff about ethno-state, ethno-government. There's not much we can do and stuff like that. And what I've been saying, and I see a lot of YouTubers, like for example Joe Haze, I think yourself. There's also Adam. There's Julie Mora, and they're all kind of like rallying behind this one politician. Granted, I know he's outspoken. I know he's saying all the key words, Maxime Bernier. However, I think this is just another fuck job, and excuse me if I use vulgar language, but because it's all the same shit that we've heard people talk about Trudeau, and that's the reason he got in. And to me, it's putting all this faith in a politician that refuses to say that uses catchwords, but really refuses to tackle the situation. And like one of them is, I know he had a disagreement with one of the Nationalist Party leaders from out west, who suggested that they put a cap on immigration, or at least lower it to 100K. And he made a statement, I think it was in the Globe and Mail or National Post, that says, "I don't deal with racists." Like,
Right.
right.
Yeah. And that's not a great sign, right? And it's not so much, I think, that he's gonna win and that we gotta put all of our faith in necessarily Maxime Bernier, right? Me personally, the way I think of it is that Canadians are so cut, right? We're like just in the media today, I was watching a clip and they were talking about who is that? Can you mute your mic there? One sec. Okay. But like today I was watching a clip in the news and it was like on CBC and they had like 3 or 4 panelists on there talking about how Andrew Scheer was bringing attention to those refugees that were caught, for doing terrorist attacks or planning to do one. And they're all like condemning him and being like, "Oh my God, how could he even talk about screening and fixing the screening?" It's like the cucky things that Andrew Scheer says. He like that, it takes no balls to say whatsoever is being condemned by the media, right? The stuff that even like he's not even willing to talk about, the cultural differences and stuff that could be a potential problem and stuff in Canada. At least Max's stuff is at least able to bring these things up, and I think Canadians were so like just brainwashed. We need to be woken up. Like people need to be told like, you're being replaced. Not that I think Max is going to go as far as we need him or want him to go, right? Obviously, I don't think he's going to go nearly as far, but compared to at least Scheer as well, and it's like it's like Scheer and under Harper and stuff, that we were all moving in the same direction we were going in right now, like under Trudeau, just a little bit slower. So it's like what is the real bad thing about Max per se? I guess maybe not allowing the CPC to win at the very worst, but who cares, right?
I think it's more of the same. Sorry, I got to interrupt. I think it's more of the same. And here's why. I don't know if you're familiar with Vincent of the Red Elephants. Very good YouTuber. He's out from the States. He talks a lot about demographics and how voting will be in the future as demographics change, as states bring in more from the South American continent, more from the Middle Eastern continents and Indian and Chinese, you're going to have more of these people voting for liberals. And then the conservatives, or the Republican Party over there, will have to switch gears. And in order to remain relevant, they will have to pander to those little ethnic enclaves. And that's what I said. This country's finished, because if you look at the numbers, if you look at BC in specific pockets like Vancouver, the whites are at about a 40% level. In Toronto alone, it's about 50% level. In the prairies, it's a little bit better. It's about 60, 59%, something like that. And in Quebec, it's much higher. The white presence is, or the Anglo-Saxon or Francophone presence is a lot higher. So then you have to consider within those, I'd like to call them tribes, right? Because, I come from a different particular white tribe, which is the Slavic tribe. And within those tribal in groups, you have people who are voting for liberals, you have people voting for conservatives, you have people voting for NDP. So that's even fractured further. So there will never be a true conservative government, ever. This country is finished.
Well, because fuck conservatism. I got to be honest, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the problems, is why we are going to be replaced, is because of them wanting to be conservative, like banning weed, right? If they were more libertarian, they would attract a lot of those liberals that are essentially holding their nose right now and voting for Trudeau. This is one of the problems with the conservatives, like even Doug Ford, with the way he's like, still against the legalization of marijuana and a bunch of these other, the problem is conservatives are too socially conservative. You know what I mean? And that is scaring off a lot of other people. Whereas if they were less socially conservative, we would have more of a chance. But unfortunately,
I know a lot of people put a lot of importance on a drug or a weed or hemp or whatever. To me, that's irrelevant. To me, what's relevant is the future of my children, education,
it is irrelevant.
Affordability.
It is irrelevant. I agree. But the problem is it's scaring away potential voters who would vote for something.
I don't think so. Because you got Doug Ford. A lot of conservatives voted for Doug Ford. I worked with one lady. She's, an Anglo-Saxon. She was...
No, conservatives vote for Doug Ford, of course. But I'm talking about...
Yeah, but look what he's done. Look what he's done. He went and pandered to a certain group, right?
That's good. The thing is, conservatives are going to vote for Doug Ford regardless if he's for or against weed, right? If conservatives come out tomorrow and say they're for legalization of weed,
I see what you're saying. You're going to have
a lot of them are going to fall into line and they're going to vote for him regardless. So now all he's going to do is attract liberal younger voters that they sorely need, and because they're so conservative on social policies, in my opinion, that is what is fucking them over. And that's why being more libertarian, if they were being more libertarian, they would have a way better shot of attracting all of those people. Essentially, that's why I made that video about like Manny Ottawa and stuff, because it's like, like his tactics are not going to work. And it's like, not that we have a per se chance. And I agree, like the way we're heading now, it's pretty much Canada's kind of fucked. We're pretty much fractured, right? Like,
but you have to look at it from a demographic point of view again, right? Like Vincent does, right? So, for example, you talk about weed. If the conservatives open themselves up, okay, let's make weed more available. Let's not make it so rash in public opinion. So you're still getting the Chinese, who are very conservative. I can tell you from experience, they're a very conservative people. They won't be open to that stuff. Then you have the Indians, who are very conservative. Then you have the Muslims.
Can't think of them, though. We got to ignore all minorities and just focus on white people.
They're not minorities anymore, and that's the problem. A lot of them are majorities.
I get it, but I'm just going to call them minorities regardless. You know what I'm talking about, right? Asians, whatever. We got to forget about Asians at this moment in time, because that first of all, the liberals are always going to appeal to them better. You're gonna, I guess, temporarily right now get some Muslims or something because you're both against. Sorry, you're both against gay shit in school and stuff, but I think we really need to invigorate a lot of these non-voters who are white and a lot of these other white people to vote. We got to stop pandering to minorities and forget about them completely at this point in time while we can. And you know, the whole split the vote thing argument, I was thinking about that the other day. They're like bringing up like, oh, back in the day they split the vote and then the liberals won and all this stuff. But I'm thinking about it, like, if they would have held their ground instead of creating like a progressive conservative party, then maybe we would have had a shot back then. But now we're left with a situation where we're with now, and they're like, don't split the vote, don't split the vote. But it's like, you know what? But now we have two leftist parties to choose from. Whereas if back in the day, if they would have just, you know, held firm for longer, I don't know, maybe they could have got an actual conservative type party in Canada. Because, like I said, just with Trudeau, with Scheer, with Michelle Rempel, you just look at her on Twitter, you're like, what the fuck? And maybe what's his name, Bernier, is a shill or just a bullshit. I don't know, but it's just kind of, we need to reinvigorate, I think, that small government mentality. So if there is a collapse, then the government that we recreate isn't going to be the same thing that we have now.
So what are we doing different that we haven't done before? Because we're not doing anything different. You know, everybody says, oh, you have to forgive. Like, to me, Max, forget, you know, at the sight of a panty line, drops his portfolio, drops his mind in front of a whore. That, to me, says everything about a character of an individual.
Right. But what's your alternative, though? Right.
So here's my thing, right? Like, I know I'm a member of the PPC, right? And I'll give you my own experience. I was at a riding not too long ago, about 2 months ago, and my Asian wife came with me. And I went downstairs. There was no cookies served, not even cheap coffee or cheap cookies that you could buy at a dollar store. Nothing of that. There was a guy who was very diminutive in character. I could barely hear him. He was way too shy. It wasn't enthusiastic. It's like, hi, how's it do? How are you doing? Welcome to the riding membership here. Let's what's your name? Let me introduce you to nothing. It was like a mouse in a corner, and people don't respect it. My wife walked out and said, wow, this is what the party's about? Chinese are not like that. They respect strength. The other thing was, then I'm sitting there and hardly anybody came up. One guy in a really cheap 20-year-old Chinese suit came down there, could barely string 2 words together, and was only interested in either becoming a candidate or being, you know, the ridership or the riding lead. I don't forget the name of it, right?
Right.
So, and then there was another guy who was a hardcore Muslim. His ninja wife came downstairs. Again, couldn't speak a lick of English.
This was PPC. This was at the PPC thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Scarborough. Couldn't speak a lick of English. Shows up, has his ninja wife there, and again, also wanting to be either a candidate or running that ridership. Where do you think their interest lies?
Oh yeah, I don't trust them.
Okay, and I left there saying, "Wow, no, thank you."
Right, and this is the thing. I don't think, like I said with the Manny video I made, like, if you look at the percentage of people that are for the PPC right now, right, in comparison to the Conservative Party, and then you look at the Conservative Party compared to the Liberals, and they're close by like 1 or 2%, right? They're off by like 1 or so percent.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of like need the PPC, right, to extent. Like they need like those 1-2% of voters to ensure their victory, typically, unless the polls change dramatically, and then they're like, oh, okay, right? But at this point, they need them. So that should give us a lot more power to make decisions and to sway the party to become more conservative, in my opinion, right? What do you think?
So again, you're thinking in a way that's been like we've been doing the same shit and playing the same game. The whole lie, right, which is the Greek word for commoner, in a derogatory sense, because that's how they treat us. In the same way, we've been doing the same shit for the past 30 or even 60 years, because we didn't get here just through Trudeau. We didn't get here just through Harper. It was generational where we
Oh,
got
of
to.
course,
Right?
I agree.
And, you know, I mean, if you read Ricardo's book, and he talks about the growth of Canada and how how the elites in the universities also twisting the truth. They twist it to say, well, this is a country of immigrants. It's not, right? It's not.
But
So anyway, just so hold on
go
one
ahead.
sec.
Sorry, go ahead.
So my thing is this: fine, if you know, people always clamor to some leader to be led, you know, instead of wanting to live their life. Leave me alone. Leave my want alone. Do whatever you want. You're a rich person and you want to have 5 Ferraris and 5 yachts. I don't give a shit. Just leave me alone. Now, fine. If we have to get behind a leader, I'm all for it, right? I don't trust a single one of them. Those that fail you in the least shall always fail you in the most. And that's always been, for me, for every politician I've worked with. I've worked with Tom Wappel when I got out of university with political science, and I found out he was a complete prick. Now, why not have these guys sign a charter for the people? Instead, he emails me and says, you know, you need to sign this form that you won't talk about this. I go, why? You're limiting my ability to be critical about the party that could actually help you rather than hurt you. If you're open to, you know, persuasion, change my mind, or if I can change your mind. Don't make me sign that shit. Why don't you sign a charter to the people saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is the timeline that I'm going to do. And if you deviate from it, sorry, you're out. That doesn't happen. We have not done that with any leader. Look at Trudeau. It's the same shit that's happened with people were, you know, clamoring all over him. Yeah, Harper was an asshole, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, he said all the right things, didn't he? All for the middle class. And I was the only one asking, what middle class? What is your definition of middle class? That's a huge range.
So your proposition is get leaders to sign a charter that if they go against the charter, they lose their position?
Correct.
Okay. Like that's fine. I agree with a thing like that. That's a good idea, right? To have imposed to hold political leaders accountable. You know, that's something good, right?
Well, what do you have to hold them accountable right now? Wait for 4 years?
Which party is going to implement it, and how are you going to implement that? You know what I mean? Like, are you just like convince people? Because you know what I mean? Like, which party is going to want to do that? Which party has incentive to do that? None of them,
No,
right?
Again, yeah, it's all about incentive based. And then I go back to the thing, well, if it's all like, what am I, you know, you rub my back, I rub yours. That's not how it's supposed to work.
So
Going into government is a duty. It's a civic duty to lead people for the benefit of the people, not for the benefit of yourself. Then I'm not interested in having you as a leader. The other thing is, I know people never tried this, and I always speak to it, and I get a lot of resistance, which is, don't vote. People complain every time they elect a leader. George Carlin talked about this. He has a great little sketch about politicians and voting. And I say, don't vote. If you don't vote, they will speak more about it. They will get terrified because now they don't have legitimacy.
that's what I'm saying. Like I was saying in another video too, Max, voting for him, it's kind of like not voting as well, except
True.
you know why they're not voting. Essentially, you know what positions they're not voting because of. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't vote. Nobody knows why. You know, they could be for.
Oh, they know why. They know why. When they voted in the last Harper election, there was professors in Alberta wanting to mandate voting because it was so.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's lots and lots and lots. There's 30% of the population who don't vote, right? So a lot of people. I know lots of people who just don't vote, who are like they just go and they work and they don't go vote. You know what I mean?
What are the reasons? You said you know lots of people. What reasons are they giving you?
Well, some people, I don't know, like they have a lot of different random reasons why they don't vote, right? We don't know why. I don't know necessarily why all these people don't go and vote. I haven't questioned each one, but the PPC, the 1.2%, 5% that the CPC needs, we know why they're not voting, because they want more libertarian policies. They want less immigration. They want less manipulation from the government into the markets, into the free markets. That's why they're voting for him, even if there's not a chance in hell of him winning. It's a protest vote. It's essentially either you don't vote or you vote for him. It's essentially
that's what it's always about. It's a protest vote. It's the same way Canadians treat their cellular service. Fuck
because,
Rogers, I'm going with
yeah,
Bell.
because
Fuck Bell, I'm going with TELUS. And it's just a roundabout.
Right, I agree, and they're keeping out competitors from the market, right? And we have no choice but to choose these two fuckers.
So let me ask you, what are the two single issues most important to you right now in Canada?
Well, immigration for sure, and I'm not sure. I got to think about the other one. I don't know. Immigration for sure, though. That's the first one. What about you? You give me your.
My priority is immigration, and my other is economics, but and more specifically is the manufacturing industry, because there's a lot of young people coming out. They can't find work. They can't afford to buy a home because they can't find a decent enough job because properties are through the roof.
That would just be the economy then, right?
Well, specifically manufacturing. We need more manufacturing.
Right.
No country does better than any other country that makes shit. China makes shit. That's why they're doing well. America makes a lot of shit. That's why they're doing better than us. What do we make? Oh, the Canadian arm. Yeah, it's like making a bicycle spoke for a bicycle.
China does good for a lot of fucking reasons. It's not just like, if you look at those trade deals and stuff, right? And the Globe and Mail actually did a really good article on China and stuff today. But essentially, the least we do fucking business with them, the better. But what were you saying? Sorry for interrupting.
No, so to me, it's like when
we gotta make shit, though, is what you're saying, right?
Right, we gotta make shit. But here's the thing about.
I agree.
Here's the thing about Max, and he makes this statement. When I saw him call that guy from the Nationalist Party, I think it's Alberta, called him a racist, and he says, I aim to bring down immigration to 250 a year. It's been 250 a year for the past 20 years. That's no change.
No, I agree. That's no change.
What are you saying?
But like I was saying before, Canadians are so fucking cucked. It's amazing how just bringing up very basic shit, the way that American politicians or conservatives talk in America is nowhere near the way Canadian conservatives talk and shit. And it's we got to break some of the basic mind control, especially about climate change and stuff, right? A lot of Canadians and conservatives all believe, in climate change.
Well, yeah, the climate changes. So what? Why aren't they concerned about pollution rather than climate change? Climate changes.
Yeah.
Humans are very adaptive and very technologically advanced. They'll figure something out. You should worry more about the pollution. Nobody talks about the thousands of canisters that the Fukushima plant are putting the deadly water that they've tried to cool down those rods, and they're just storing it out on the outskirts on the coast there, right next to the Daiichi plant. Nobody talks about it, and they're leaking too. And they just in September 2018 they had another earthquake. If there's another tsunami, all that water goes into the Pacific Ocean. The currents will spread that radioactive cesium-3 all over the place.
Right.
He talks about that. We talk about climate change. Who gives a shit about climate change? Climate changes have been around for years. It used to be global warming.
But that's Mac's position. That's why I like Mac's position on it. Is essentially let's not do anything. Let's just let the provinces, if they want to do something.
Climate change. There's another book called Red Scent, and in that book, I forgot the name of the author, but it's titled Red Scent. Talks about China and climate change. All this thing about climate change is to China's benefit, not ours, because they and India do most of the pollution, and throw in all kinds of carbons and into the air from their manufacture of goods and plastics and coal burning in India and in China. And we do very little of it.
Yeah, we're like a huge carbon sink. Right. And, it's funny. Yeah. And I point to, socialism and, a lot of that as well. And in the manipulation of the government in the industry to the furthering of climate change a lot of the times, you know, like if we didn't give so much money to Africa and stuff, there wouldn't be such a huge overpopulation boom there, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
And now we're importing those people into high resource, like we're bringing them into cold environments that, you know, we need more heat to heat our homes. And even with that fact, we still use less energy and we're less polluting and stuff than India and China and all that crap. But
remember the Green Party? Rules and opposition. They're like the devil. Look, but don't touch. Remember the Green Party was saying, oh, there's too many people on the planet. Population's too high.
Right.
Yeah, we're importing people who have replacement values of like 6.
Yeah, they don't know how to get their narrative straight when it comes to that. You know, either it's too high or it's too low, or, you know, one or the other. It's too low for us, but too high for everybody else. So we'll just import them here. I don't know.
So let me ask you this. And I want to ask the people in the chat as well. So everybody puts their faith behind Maxime Bernier and says, this guy is great. He's saying the right things, and he gets into power, ends up as another dud. What do you say then? Because I asked Joe that once. He was on a live chat, and I asked Joe, like you voted for Trudeau, and now you're, you know, stepping back and realizing that you made a big mistake.
The way I see it is that we are already heading for destruction anyways. Like
we're there. We're not heading. We're there.
Heading or there, whatever you want to call it, right? I said like a year before Max and whatnot was there and around and stuff in my even radar. I was like, yeah, Canada's fucked, especially with the conservatives, with the shit that they're saying and like how they're pussies and how they're essentially no different. Essentially, I've always been saying, hey, we're most likely going to collapse, and this is the way it's going to go. But at least, you know, there's somebody now saying something that could potentially turn some stuff around. Now, doesn't mean you have to have faith and whatnot, but like I was saying, in Canada, there's no talk about any type of libertarianism in Canada. It's always left or left, essentially. Like our conservatives are leftists. They're not real fucking conservatives. They're not even close to libertarian or anything like that. And it's good to at least have somebody come out and say a few things and propose a few different things. Not that I think that's going to necessarily change anything, but I think we need to change as many minds as possible before a potential collapse. Which government is going to be the best to replace this current government of statism, right? Because like we could just go and redo all these things over and over again. It's a cyclical cycle in history. We're just gonna, you know, it's gonna collapse. We're gonna set up another government similar to this one. It's gonna go through the same fucking stages that this one goes through. It's gonna go through another collapse, whatnot. So it's like, what are we gonna do? What system are we going to implement afterwards to have a sustainable society that isn't prone to what we are enduring today in society today? So in my opinion, that would be a free market, and a free market small government would also ensure likely white people staying a majority, because if white people have a higher IQ or whatever, then they are going to attain more resources. They are going to have more children. You know, the system is going to benefit them as well. More, you know, the smarter people are going to have more babies. It's going to essentially be better for everybody, in my opinion. And, you know, you could try setting up an ethno-state or government that specifically targets white people to help them grow and have kids. And I don't know what they're going to do, but you know, government's power structures are prone to being taken over, prone to, you know, power ultimately corrupts. Like that is like a true statement. And we can't be, it's hard to trust a government to take care of you and to have your best interest at heart. Just like the things you're talking about with Maxime Bernier, like you don't trust all the politicians and stuff. And is this guy going to be better than the next guy? Well, it's the same thing with people who say they want to create a government where the government is going to have our best interest at heart. Well, when has that ever happened? When has our leaders, the people running us, controlling us, when have they ever had our best interest at heart? They've never
When
had
the
it.
numbers were smaller, when the numbers weren't in their favor. Now we have such huge numbers that it's easier to uh, bamboozle and machinate all over the place with the government. Like, I mean, now you just mentioned the ethno government. To me, ethno state and ethno government are two different things. I've always talked about.
I'm not sure what the ethno government. I haven't heard that.
You're right. So my idea of an ethno government is having only the people of the greatest history in this country are, like, to me, Anglo-Saxons, Francophones, blacks, to a small degree, as they came in smaller numbers than Anglos and Francos and the Acadians, and then the Native Indians should be in government, and they should then. And I'm not saying that they make specifically Anglo-Franco policies. I'm saying that they govern for the benefit of all. But when you get in, like, these little, like, there was what's his name, Raj Gurul Raj, in the Liberal Party. He owns like $500,000 in gambling fees, holds a Liberal Party, collects the money, and it just sort of disappears, and they brush it off. Like, did they pay off? Did they use tax-funded monies? Or what's this guy doing in government with gambling bills? You shouldn't be there.
Right.
Or
yeah, no, I agree, but
right, we have a motion, which is really a law. It's just in name only, but it's essentially a law that was developed by who? By a Muslim MP, pandering to their own group. Remember, not too long ago, when we got a minority government with Harper, in the Scarborough Rouge riding, there was a Indonesian lady, and there was a group of these Muslim Indonesians, Tamil Tigers, blocking the highway.
I don't remember that.
It was like 5, maybe 7 years ago. Well, she was in that riding, and she was meeting with all the Tamil Tigers and those groups and talking to them. And these people will take care of their own in-groups. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's natural. It's been around for 200,000 years of modern man.
Yeah, I agree.
When you get these little pockets of these different groups of people, we have an immigration minister who wants to forgive Somalis for major crimes because, hey, it's just a major crime. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do, you're going to get these little pockets of Richmond Hill's all Chinese, Brampton's all Indian, Vancouver's all Chinese. You're losing. Canadians are losing ground, and I don't think you can take that back. I'm not saying you can kick these people out, but you got to put a moratorium on the immigration. It's a must.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And then you have those 4 groups only in politics. That's what I call an ethno government.
Well, that's why I was thinking, like I've said in a couple of my videos, I think that we should only allow people to run an office if they've been in the country for 3 generations, or even vote. You shouldn't even be allowed to vote unless you've been in Canada for 3 generations. I think that's a good compromise. If we're going to have a voting system, which I disagree with already, I think one of the problems is democracy. That's one of the fucking problems. And
Churchill said it was the only system we had.
Yeah, it's the best and worst system we have, according to Winston Churchill. Yeah. But that doesn't mean there isn't better systems. And a republic was better as well, and that has a democracy in it. But see, that's a thing too. What do you mean when you're talking about democracy, right? What was Winston Churchill? What was his definition of democracy? Was it the democracy we have today? Probably was. But
yeah, we need to get more specific in the way we talk. For example, you talk about being a libertarian. What does that mean? There's so many different,
right? And I usually use that term loosely, and exactly that there's a lot of confusion. I understand, with people with words, and we got to use these words more accurately and stuff, because people will often mischaracterize me or my positions, or I'll mischaracterize them, or etc. But essentially, what I want is I claim I'm more of an anarcho-capitalist, right? And the dream would be, oh yeah, free society. But you know, I'm a realist, right? So I understand that, yeah, I'm not going to convince everybody that that's going to be the best thing, because it's just so outside of the box for people to think like, you know,
I
oh
know it is. And it's hard for people to swallow because they've gone through school, just absorbing that shit for a lifetime. And it's hard. It's a hard thing it's like coming out of the Matrix. And
yeah,
you're like, wow.
it's hard. It's hard for people to wrap their brain around it and think of different solutions to come for, like, well, who's gonna build the roads? You know what I mean? Like this
Right.
simple shit like
Like, for
that.
example, you talked about roads. Nobody ever questions is, why aren't the companies paying for the roads? Like, it's mostly coming out of taxpayer money. Why the
Yeah,
companies need people to drive to their work? They are the ones on Highway 7 with all the big, huge rigs taking up all
yeah.
4 lanes because they're delivering their pots and pans made in China.
They would
Like,
pay for them, yeah, a lot of the times. And the thing is, it's like, oh, well, there's going to be tolls and this and stuff like that. Well, there might be some, but generally, do you think the way that we're building roads right now is efficient? Has anybody seen the way that they work on roads in Canada? There's like 7 fucking guys watching one guy in a hole, like hit some shit in a hole, and everybody's like,
for in my philosophy,
standing around watching them.
yeah. In my world of philosophy, I look at it like this. To me, the biggest single problem of humanity is measure and the lack of measure. For example, in China, they'll build a building in 2 days, but in Canada, they'll build it in 10 years. There's no in between. There's no
Yeah, well,
measure.
China's fucked though. Like they build whole area cities in like a year,
Yeah,
but
people
it's
talk about this
all
shit. They don't
down.
really know. I know about it. I've been there. I've lived there for like 2 years. They build these giant cities as a kind of mock cities, mock villages, to say to the working class there and the
Yeah,
urban and rural people, look, we're building this giant city. It's just bullshit.
the
That's
government
not really.
subsidize every building they build. Like every floor is like subsidized by the government.
Yeah, yeah. The government subsidizes factory owners too. Like, a guy wants to open up a factory, and they ask the money. The guy asks for the money. The government gives it to him, and then one of the local politicians kind of has a lien on that factory, but everybody kind of makes money. Like, I know how they operate there. It's a little bit more efficient, but everybody's stepping on everybody's toes. They don't really care about you. There's a huge lack of empathy over there. They'll run you over,
Oh
and they'll
yeah.
run you over,
Well, there
several
was
times.
this there's this like, oh yeah, I heard about that too. And it's like there's this guy, I forget his name, he starts with this. He's a South African, I think he lives in China.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever seen his YouTube channel. I can find him later and show you to, but he
Yeah.
lives in China. He's lived there for a few years, and he's a big YouTuber. And yeah, he's him and his buddies. They're driving around their mopeds through like, yeah, these huge abandoned type cities, right? And you see like they're like hollow. Some of these things they're like made out of wood. They're like falling apart. He's like, yeah, like some of these things like, and there's no maintenance. He's saying that goes on a lot of different areas in China. Like people don't build anything or don't repair anything because nobody like owns anything.
Well,
So he's
no, it's not like that. So it's a little bit different. So, for example, if they're building a house there, right, they'll build a building, right? And you purchase the building. You walk into the building. It's bare. It's bare for a reason, because the Chinese decorated it in their own way. I've been there. It's a very interesting concept because, like, for example, I've been in the building where the guy bought the condo, and the condo above him, completely different door, different window, tiling, everything. It's just how, like, they do things a little bit differently there. Now, it's generally known that, for example, these new condos that go up, nobody wants to pay condo fees because they just don't want to pay it. Like they said, well, why should we pay for it? So it just goes in, it goes in disrepair. But what happens then is they just build a new one. So it's a little bit different how the dynamics work over there. Because here we want to maintain our infrastructure. There they can build it in a flash. Right.
right.
So we're always trying to compare apples and oranges to how things work there. They are a pure, in every sense of the word, they are a pure capitalist system.
No.
To me, they are.
No.
Why would you say no?
What do you mean? How are they capitalistic?
Because they will make money.
They can just take a hold of your company. They can just take control of like companies whenever the hell they want. Like there's like private property and stuff. Like they have some aspects of capitalism, no way is it a pure capitalist country.
No, it's a pure capital. If you open up a business and you're doing really well, and it goes to shit, the one's going to bail you out. No one. You're on your own.
Okay. Yeah.
We're not bailing out like we're bailing out GM.
Unless you're a mega company, right? And look at
if you're a government-owned company, then it's a different story.
Why are people so afraid of Huawei, right? Because they're afraid of the back door that the Chinese government has into that company.
Who gave them the back door? It was Cisco dealing with them and having contracts that were completely open. They have open contracts. The guy says the truth.
Huawei is a Chinese company.
Yeah, I know that.
The government has a lot of influence.
Meng's father sits in the Communist Bureau.
Right, but they're, like I said, they're a communist government, right? Like I wouldn't say they're capitalistic. Like
they're not communist either.
Well, yeah, I agree. They're not communist. They call themselves communist, but by pure definition, yeah, they're not living in.
Communists run a business.
They're not living in communes and stuff. Like, a lot of people say they want socialism and all this other shit. But generally, yeah, the elites, people, stuff like that, they understand the only way to make money is with some form of capitalism, right? Even Hitler introduced some form of capitalism, but it was a huge monopolistic form of capitalism where he destroyed all of the small businesses essentially by making it impossible for people who don't have, like, I think it was like $40,000 to $200,000 to start a business. If you don't have that much, you're not allowed. And then so he encouraged like monopolies. So it was like capitalism, but not really. It was like heavily influenced by the government in the state. And China, they have a heavy influence, like subsidization to build floors. That's not capitalism. That's you're subsidizing inefficiency. You're like that isn't efficient to just tear down something and rebuild. It takes more energy to build something than does to tear it down. Even if they could build something in like a day, is it really that fucking sturdy? Like the Romans built shit. It's still standing today. You know what I mean? Like, you use less energy by having to rebuild shit every fucking for no reason. Like it's like they're just it's like a huge jobs program. Like our roads is a huge jobs program by the government that they just have 7 guys watching 1 guy work. So then they could say, oh, see, we're building jobs. You look at the jobs gains in Canada. We lost in all of the in manufacturing and all this other shit. We gained in like the public sector and the fucking like food industry or something like that. But because we're going less capitalistic now, we're moving more towards a bigger government, more socialistic, more like, and yes, it's not pure socialism, it's not pure communism, but it is moving further towards that, right? And I was arguing with some people before. They're like, oh, we've never had a true free market. It's like, yeah, we haven't, but that doesn't mean having more of a free market isn't better than having less of a free market. It's like, it's not an argument against it, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I get it. Like a free market, a true free market, then there will be lives. People will be dying because companies will not be held accountable for the things and misdeeds that they do. I get it.
That's not a true free market, though. If a true free market, companies wouldn't be killing people en masse because we would just be killing them back. Right? That's the thing. People assume it's like, oh, without the government, who's protecting corporations from killing you right now is the government, because all they can do is they can willingly sell you stuff right now, knowingly that's going to kill you, which they already do. Drugs, they're like, oh, this is going to kill like 2% of people, but we're just going to get a fine from the government that we can easily pay off with the fucking $50 billion we made. We're going to pay off 500 million. It's going to be pennies. But in a real free society, you know what? They kill you, you kill them. That's assault.
How do you kill them?
With a gun.
Okay. So
how do people, how are they going to keep?
So who killed the GM executives? They were making faulty cars in the 80s. When you'd smash to the side, they'll blow up.
There was a government in the 1980s that would stop you from killing the GM because that would be vigilante justice, and then you go to prison for a very long time. So like you said, there was not a free society in the 1980s, especially. There wasn't one at any point in history, pretty much. But if you had, more of a free society, if somebody aggresses against you, let's just say there's a corporation that poisons the well or the river of your town, right? And everybody in your town gets sick. Well, in the society today where that does happen, like in Michigan, where people are still drinking like all this lead in their water, etc., you know what? They just have to pay a fine. Nobody goes to jail. Not one of them go to jail. They're all fine. But guess what? In a freer society, everybody in that town, they'd be getting sick. They'd say, hey, stop poisoning our well. And then that company still does it. Well, that whole town's going to go there and fucking murder you. Because
look, okay, so
aggressing against you, they're killing your kids by poisoning.
I don't think that's pure capitalism. I mean, pure capitalism.
Capitalism is the economic system. A free society is a different thing. Capitalism is just a means of having private property and trade, and it's not.
So what I'm saying is we don't have that here, because if I want to open up a business, I have to go through this regulation, pay this tax, this tax, and then by the time I'm done, they've raped me so bad that my anal glands are permanently bleeding. But in China, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You got kids on the street pumping little tires and making money. They do business, and that's why they have a super fast growing middle class. However, it's at people's cost, because they really don't give a shit about each other.
China, I wouldn't use China. Their economy is doing shitty right now, especially with those tariffs. Trump is making like a ton of money.
So what? They were at 12%. Now they're at 6%. What do we do?
They're not at 6%. They're not at 6% GDP. That's a lie. They're probably at 2%. Like, do you really believe the Chinese government?
How can they be at 2% if we grow near 2% and we don't see the growth in our infrastructure and the growth of our middle class like they have? You know how many middle class people
we already have a grow. It's easier to see a growing middle class when they're all poor workers in the field working in rice and then moving up to making more money, where they still have less money on average than Canadians, right? So it's like on average, they're still not better than Canadians, even though their economy is growing. And you got to understand, our leaders have sold us out for many years.
Absolutely, I totally agree. We've subsidized their growth.
So we don't have a free market. You know that free trade that's been going on? That's not free trade. It's corporations in Canada making a lot of fucking money off of Chinese people on the benefit off of our backs, right? Like, that's not free trade. That's not for free trade, right? It's these trade deals are not in our benefit, and that's what's helping the Chinese economy as well grow. It's not because they're so great and smart as well. Like, I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they haven't done anything right and stuff and are doing things correctly, but there's also a lot of Western countries who have made trade deals to sell out our industries, to send our jobs, manufacturing jobs in China. So then all these people have no more jobs, are all opiate addicts and all this shit. And we're like, well, look how great the Chinese are doing. It's like, yeah, for the past 20 fucking years, all of our jobs have been going there because of the trade deals that fucking Brian Mulroney.
Why is that? Whose fault is that?
The conservatives, Brian Mulroney. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but hold on. Whose fault is it? Like, okay, fine, politicians are scum. I totally agree with it. Like the Chinese girl that came to my wife's friend, and I berated her for that. She came once and said to me, "White people are stupid." And I said, "Why do you say that?" And she says, "Because they just spend their money, and they just don't want to go and
Asian, man.
And I said, this is what I said to her. You should be very grateful for the stupidity of Canadians, because if they weren't that stupid, you'd be back in your country eating bark and water. Then she shut up. Now listen.
Yeah, I know, right? I hate that fucking attitude that like, I got these lazy Canadians and fucking I come here. Like, oh man,
she has a point. Where are the young kids saving their money? We have less savings. Now, there's a lot of other variables and reasons for that. I know.
I agree.
I'm just saying there's no savings for them. Secondly, who sold themselves to have a new shiny toaster in their kitchen? I remember my father had one freaking TV, and it was the, It was fine. Nobody really wanted to watch TV. We all wanted to go outside anyway. And it was a very simple life. And he said this to me, because coming from Eastern Europe, he said, son, I never understood Canadians. You know, back home, we always wanted to dress and be sharp dressed and this and that and spend a lot of money on fashionable clothes because that's what Europe was about. But Canadians didn't give a shit about what they looked like, but they enjoyed their life. They had a cottage they would go to, spend outdoors. They had a very simple life, but had an enjoyable life. And that's gone now. You don't see that. The dream of ever having a cottage is gone. Unless those boomers that are passing that shit on to their kids. But I will never have experienced that.
No, I know, right? And you know, the older generation fucking sold us out. Safer.
Well, yeah.
Truth of the matter is, right? And I'm not blaming all boomers. I'm not saying every person wanted to, and you know, but yes, they did.
But again, it's also savings. Like H.L. Mencken once said, he says, I don't condone the senseless hodging of money, but what I do condone the senseless hodging of money just to get by. And people don't do that. They got to have all the shit. They got, you know, they all complain about, you know, they had remember the tents downtown they had. And
we're lied to, though. We're told to do that. We're like, oh, stimulate the economy. Go stimulate it. Buy useless junk to stimulate. Because if we don't do this, we're all gonna collapse and be poor. Like I've heard that people say that. They're like, what? No, you don't need to buy useless shit. Saving money is good. You know, like
saving money is good because you'll spend more. If you own a home, you might buy another home. Yeah. You might buy a cottage. You might buy a vehicle.
Better investments that are
right. Yeah, and investments is where it counts.
And but people will invest in the country as well more too, because there's a lot of savings in the country, right? As opposed to everybody's in debt, right? The way it is now. But go ahead, sorry.
The Chinese are laughing at the Anglo-Saxons, and I hear it. I was in a dim sum. I speak broken Cantonese, and I'm in a dim sum, and I'm sitting there with my wife and my kids, and I'm just like, can you hear this? And she's talking half because I think the guy sitting next to her was a banana, right? You know, first or second generation Canadian, but I guess he had Chinese or original parents, and it must have been his grandmother and a 7-year-old boy. And she says, you got to buy a lot of houses because it's really easy. I don't understand why these Canadians just let us buy all these houses. And she says, don't rent to white people and black people. And there's a little 7-year-old boy sitting next to, I think he's 7, maybe 10, something like that, right?
That's fucked.
And you don't hear people are not around these people constantly. We had, what's her name, Karen Wang or something from BC and the NDP. That's how she talks, and everybody's like, oh my God, do you understand? I said, who cares? Who gives a shit? She's pandering to her own group. That's what they do. Everybody does it.
Yeah, everybody does it except for white people. But we know what would happen if white people did it, right? You know, it's kind of like you know,
have some pride in what people have accomplished, right? Have some pride. Know your history.
And I don't fault those Asian people for pandering. Yeah, like it's like that's a natural thing. That's why I keep saying this is tribalism. Like this is just how people are. They're tribalistic. They, you know, are tribalistic, and all humans are essentially like that. And other than like, you know, white people have lost that to a large extent. And I don't think tribalism is necessarily a good thing. I don't think like you know, it's necessarily logical per se, but it's if everybody else is doing it and we're the only group not doing it and we have our doors wide open and all this shit, like it's just a matter of time before we get replaced, right?
So here's the thing. Here's our problem. Here's our major problem in this country. And this is why I say it's done. It's think of alternate ways and alternate things to do to change, alternate mindsets. Think outside the box now, because the demographics are screwed. They're against us, right? And I'm a European. I'm not a part of the Anglo tribe, but you know, as my father came here, he says, this is their country. We're going to respect their rules. We're going to respect their customs and heritages. Not that Eastern Europe was any different in huge aspects of Canadian culture or American culture. It was pretty much, you know, Catholicism, Christianity, blah, 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 kind of the old Puritanism. Fine. Respect for other people's property and whatnot. But people need to consider the demographics and what's happening. And I don't think things are going to get better. We need to prepare for things becoming worse. Because right now I've looked at We have 30,000 Chinese coming in every year, 30,000 Indians. I mean, I'm only like the very few white guy in where I work. It feels, I feel like I'm in a separate country. Where I live, I don't feel like I'm in Canada anymore. Right?
Yeah, it's gonna continue faster and faster and faster, right? You know, it's not gonna.
And I used to, when I was a kid, I used to come out, say hello to the neighbors. How you doing? What's new? Hey, Georgia, did you get the turkey? Blah blah blah. That shit doesn't happen anymore. We all look at each other and we just nod. Mm, 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 mm. They're yakking to me in Chinese, and I don't like. I'm just kind of breaking down, you know. And Faidi Salah, I'm going now. Hurry up, you know. Mm, mm, mm. And just nod at each other. That's not normal. You don't have a community anymore, right? And
Right.
and then they tell you that bullshit lie. They keep pushing that bullshit. We need people because we have an aging population. Who gives a shit? That's not a
I
bad
agree.
thing.
I
It's
agree.
not a
Not a
bad
bad
thing.
thing.
You have, that person died, that property open. Might be a little bit cheaper for the younger couple that's
Yeah, I
coming
know, right?
around.
It's
Oh, there's a
good.
cottage that's open. Oh, now we can have a cottage and enjoy life a little bit better.
But what's the propaganda Trudeau uses? It's like, well, we need 100 million to stay
It's not
competitive
just
on the
him.
world
It's not
stage.
just him. It's not just the liberals or Trudeau.
Oh no, I know.
Before
It's
Trudeau,
conservatives, Harper, all those guys.
Harper
I
was
agree.
using
He's the one
the
who said that quote, the 100 million
right.
competitive.
Yeah. So the thing is, I don't see, all these people rallying against Bernier, and I'm like, okay, guys, come on, wake up, please.
I know, but
Think
what is your alternative to rally for again, though? A charter?
a charter, a people's charter. What's wrong with that?
Which
Demand
part
it.
to implement it, though?
Well, I don't know. I know I'm not here. I'm not, you know, I'm not a demigod where I can think of it. I'm thinking of ideas to what to do. What are the possible
Right.
ways? People complain. There's the yellow vest. Those poor people there in France. I see them. My heart. I almost go into tears when I see them in the streets, and the police are beating them up, and the government's so belligerent with them. And I just think, people, you guys just got to stay home, rip up, let them arrest you, whatever. Don't go to work. Watch the companies collapse. Nobody goes to work. Rip up, tear up your, don't go shopping, anything. Bring it down. Bring it to a halt. Like they were going to do a bank run. I don't know what happened with that, right? It was kind of hushed up pretty quickly. I didn't hear anything about it. They said, I thought that was a good idea. There are other ways to protest you can sit in your chair and have a beer and not do anything. Sometimes that's the best thing, is not to do anything. They get terrified. The elites and people who rule over us get terrified. But I think to implement it, in your question, how would you implement a people's charter? Well, simply demand it. Say, okay, you want me to elect you? You want to have a party? You
I
give me a
think you're
people's
going
charter.
to encounter the same difficulty that, you know, maybe, I don't know, like just are you gonna, like, I guess, start like a YouTube kind of thing, like pushing for that idea, like a charter.
I have a YouTube channel. I talk about
I
all
think it's
sorts
a
of
good
issues.
idea.
And well,
Don't
I
get me
think
wrong. I think it's a good idea to have different things to hold government officials accountable, right? But you think that's gonna just fix everything, kind of thing? Like, like have, that's a good start, right?
it's a
If we
good start. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a fix to all, right? But it's a
that's
good start.
So what it would do, it would make party leaders step down if they don't go with their platform. But what if the government, with CBC, the propaganda network, as well as the other propaganda, the educational systems, all this other shit, convince everybody that this thing is really good and we need to do it, like climate change, we need to give up all of our money and shit. And most of the population wants this, and a party leader runs on this platform and achieves it. Okay, he's achieving this platform, but everybody wants, but it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for society. So you know what I mean? Like, so even though we have that, and that's good that we can get people in who, if they don't follow through on what they say they're going to do, get kicked out. But what they say they're going to do like is really bad. And what if the majority of people want that? You know what I mean? Like, I think the
That's the
problem is
problem. That's the problem. There's too many, nitwits out there that just swallow whatever's
exactly,
being fed to them. CBC is one of the worst. Like, for
and
example,
that will
nobody
always be
questions,
the
right?
case.
Nobody questions their like covert programs of eating bugs. They've done this like for many years. They keep repeating, "Oh, eating insects and stuff." What are you trying to tell me? That we're running out of food? Are you trying to, slowly change my mind? Like, what is this? You keep repeating the same program over and over again, and that's their modus operandi. They do that with everything. CBC has to be eliminated, and people have to think alternate. Like when I was a kid, my teacher taught me, when you're reading the newspapers, always read between the lines and understand what they're peddling and what the real uh, take the truth from the fiction. People don't do that anymore. They just kind of and they just spoon fed, and they're lazy. You need to exercise the mind like you exercise the body.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't know what to do about that. We have education. They're teaching my kids about Malala all the time. Oh, Malala and Trudeau did this, and she's like, yeah, so what? She got shot. Like, if I could sit there and get shot in the head, do I deserve a Nobel Peace Prize? She lives in a country where they're as primitive as can be, right? They treat their women like garbage. They treat each other like garbage, you know. And then I'm supposed to kind of feel sorry for a girl who got shot in the head that's unrelated to me from miles away in a foreign country. What are you trying to push? Nobody asks that. They're constantly
Right.
pushing that on my kids. I had an argument with the principal the other day. She's telling me, I asked her, what is this gender fluidity thing that you're going to do this all day session with my daughter? Well, and I know what it is. And they keep pushing that. I'm like, no, listen, I don't believe in 35 different genders. I only believe in two. My kids are not taking part of it. And I mentioned, you're not supposed to be teaching this because of, Doug Ford's initiated new policy. And she proudly, like she almost enthusiastically, an Anglo-Saxon to boot, says to me, yeah, we're taking him to the courts. Really? What are you trying to push? Like,
That's crazy.
I'm
Yeah.
fighting the system here myself already.
Yeah. It's the system. That's the problem, I think, in general, right? It's like we're always going to have these issues if we have a democracy. If we let the idiots make decisions for everybody else based on this fake sense of democracy where everybody gets a vote or whatever, that's not good because the world is full of stupid people. And these stupid people make stupid decisions and they're easily manipulated by the media, by all this shit. So in my opinion, the best solution would be removing people's power they have over you. And that is getting rid of democracy, getting rid of this thing. Maybe it could work on a small scale in like a city or town or village, where people have like, where should we build the water well or something, and everybody in the town or whatever make a democratized decision for something like that, right?
All I want is people to think outside the box and think about doing something different for a change. It's not that hard because democracies have changed and molded and evolved through generations, right?
That's why I like Max though, is just because he's attacking some of the things that we have preconceived ideas about how the government, like healthcare, for example, like the conservatives in Canada are so afraid to attack that. And look at Doug Ford and the articles coming out about him recently, and they're all framed like really like, oh my God, he's going to consider privatizing healthcare. Oh, secret documents of privatizing. He's going to offer private healthcare with this alongside our public healthcare. People are just so crazy with that. They don't even, they're even against that idea, just having two options, one public and just having some private shit. But
I went to the hospital with my wife. I went to the hospital with my wife. Her jaw was dislocated. She sat there in the hospital for 9 hours with her jaw like hanging out. It was kind of funny. Because the jaw cannot lock. She yawned too much, right? And it was a 2-minute job. I felt like I wanted to do it, but I don't know if I put it on. I'd probably knock her out. She's so tiny. And there's all these immigrants there, and they're just coughing. I'm at the hospital. Listen, man, unless your arm's broken or your jaw's dislocated and you can't even close it and shit like that, Why are you doing here? Because we went to the doctors. They said, we don't do that shit here. But why are those people, for every cough and sneeze and stuff, they're eating up the money? So our private healthcare system works. But
Oh
Doug
yeah,
Ford, is another miscreant to me, because what does he do? The first thing he does is he panders to that group, the Sikh group that gave him all the vote, that put him into power, and he develops a different law for them. Why? Because you wear a towel on your head, and all of a sudden you're so special over everybody else. So everybody else is going to pay tax dollars. So when you fall and bang your head and and become a vegetable, it's our money that's going to be paying for your care. The same thing goes when he secretly raised their allowances from
right.
1800 to 20. Like, why are you doing that? You think I
Well,
get the
yeah,
same allowance?
it's votes and shit, and that's the thing, right? Like, there's lots of problems I've seen with Doug Ford too, and I didn't like when he was talking during the whole what do you call it, the trade negotiations and stuff. Like,
Or he's saying, "Oh, congratulations to India for having this constitution." Like, I don't. Why do it?
well, that was Andrew Scheer, I'm pretty sure.
No,
It
I
might
think
have
that
been.
was Doug Ford.
Well, I know it was Andrew Scheer who did make a comment on Twitter, but I didn't see Doug Ford's. But I know Andrew Scheer did. I'm sure Doug Ford probably did too, but I wouldn't be surprised. And that's the thing. I'm not one of these Doug Ford supporters like, oh, he's the best man in the world, blah, blah, blah. But like I said,
I will give you that Max knows how to talk. For example, the Sheer, when he did his interview with Chatelaine magazine host, I forgot her name, and the woman says to him, "Are you a feminist?" And he just says, "Yes, I am. Oh, yeah. I'm a feminist." Instead of saying, "Are you a masculinist?" What does me being a feminist or a masculinist have to do with me running the economy and the country as a whole? No balls whatsoever. Max, on a different side, I have to say, he presents himself well. Again, he does things that frighten me. Like, I voted for the gender laws. Oops, I made a mistake. Well, that's kind of shit those kinds of oops impact the way in which we live.
oh,
And he
I
says,
agree with you. I definitely agree with you. And the same thing with like, yeah, Doug and all. Like, yeah, nobody's making good decisions or saying everything right, right? But like I was saying before, is that just basic shit like having private healthcare is enough of a fucking topic in Canada to freak the fuck out of people. And just saying, maybe diversity isn't a strength is enough to make people lose their fucking shit. And just these basic things need to be said just to get Canadians to talk about, like, okay, we keep hearing from Trudeau in the media, diversity is a strength, but like nobody ever has a discussion about it. Nobody probably really thinks about it. And, I think that with the Conservative Party right now, without Max in the mix, kind of egging them on and attacking them and shit like that, they would be even more cuckish on a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Like, that's not to say that I think this is going to save Canada or anything like that, but at the very least, I just want people to start like considering other things other than like only the government. Like, that seems to be the only answer every Canadian has, like, for everything, whether they're liberal or conservative or whatnot. And there is such obviously a lack of people here that do have a kind of libertarian mindset, and maybe that we don't have because we don't have a history of that and all that. But damn it, I want to make a fucking history of that. I want to make people more against the government and more for smaller government. At the very least, like I said, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I think that initially any government, no matter what the size, is eventually going to lead to what we have today. America started with like a very small government, a republic where very few people could vote, only landowners. But over time, that slowly, degraded, and then more people got the chance to vote, and more and more and more and more. And now everybody can vote. And they're arguing. I saw an article the other day in America, and they're like, see, Mitch McConnell, he's saying he's afraid about Democrats. He knows that if more people vote, the Republicans can't win. And that's completely fucking true. You know what I mean? If more people vote, if it was easier for people to vote and everybody got a day off, then the liberals would probably win a lot of the fucking elections and stuff in America.
probably, yeah.
So it's like, voting you know, the whole thing in general, it's not good. And it's like people just think it's a good idea to allow everybody to vote. No, it's not a good idea. Voting in general is bad. What is it? What is it? What is democracy? What does it really do? Like, what if you break it down and look at it? Voting is allowing a certain segment of people to, you know, elect a guy to decide where all of these resources that were stolen from everybody get spent and dispersed, right? That's democracy. That's what it is. If bare bones, it's our group wins 51%, and we get to decide what happens with the money we steal from you. That's what democracy is. You know, at the end of the day, that's democracy. So that's why it's never going to work, because people will always have their own fucking best interests at heart as opposed to other people. And they're always going to be divided and going against each other because they
But
want
that
their.
division was a lot smaller in homogenous groups. You cannot.
I agree. I would hope
It's,
Canada is more homogenous. I want Canada to be more homogenous, but it's the question of how do you get it more homogenous?
you can't go back now. You can't kick these people out. So fine.
Exactly, right. So I think we're going to be headed to some sort of collapse, and then we need to restart a new government that is going to be small and, I don't know, live in wherever in Canada that doesn't have, and hopefully it's more homogenous or whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. What were you going to say?
Well, again, I think I think that people need to stop thinking about being a good citizen, being a good boy, and going and making a check in the checkbox. And that makes you somewhat, I did my due diligence. I'm a good boy. No, we got to be more active. We have to have a louder voice. And even though we have a charter, it's so far removed from the general person. I think a people's charter that is with the specific party that I can touch and feel the individual. I can knock on your door and say, hey, remember what you said that day? That's the problem. Politics is so far removed. Thinking that doing a vote is going to change anything at the top layer, because there are so many unseen forces that are influencing our governments, whether it's countries or, you know, CEOs of companies. We have we have little to no impact. That's what's the sad part of these yellow vesters in France, because ultimately it will all be for naught. And I think that we need to rethink the way in which we govern ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to be in for peril. We already have like these little fiefdoms in parts of the country, and no one seems to be I don't know, waking up. I mean, I see the chat here. They're kind of awake. They're getting it. You know, Gator Hog and Voltron and those guys, they seem awake to it.
100%. You know, it's like we need to change the way we govern people and society and our leaders and stuff, hold them accountable. And, you know, like I'm for that, you know, any way that is possible, right? So whether that is through a charter, whether that is voting for people for smaller or not voting at all, right?
So what do you think about this Muslim party in Ontario?
That's where it starts. I made a video about it, and I said that I think it's a good thing for now, in a sense that not that it's good that it exists, because I got a lot of people triggered off my title. They're all like, what do you mean? It's good. It's not good. How could you say that? I'm like, watch the video before you fucking comment. But I was just meant like, now we actually have some type of a document to point to be like, see, this is what they believe. This is what they believe. Read it yourself. Like, I'm not making this up. You know, they like to point to diversity and be like, well, what problems with diversity? Where can you point to where we're going to have problems? It's like, well, if this government gets into power, we're going to have problems. Read their fucking platform, right? And I'm like, that's the only good thing about it, essentially. Is just like, that's why it's good to have freedom of speech and stuff, because, you know, you would rather have these people come out and say something, what they really believe right now, instead of waiting until they get a higher group or population or number of your population, then, you know, come out with their party and shit. You know, it's better they do it earlier as opposed to later. But yeah, that's just a sign of the Islamization of Canada, and it's our eventual, you know, replacement over time. You know, that's just a sign of it, really. The party shouldn't exist, but it does now. I think it should have the right to exist as well. Oh, you're still there?
No, I'm still here. I'm listening. I'm just trying to look up how many Muslims in Ontario specifically, as their numbers grow. Because just speaking from experience, I came from a fractured country, former Yugoslavia. Okay, and in Bosnia, because of the Turkish, when the Turks had invaded Europe, and the Habsburg Empire had put the front line there with the Serbian. That's why the borders are the way they are with Serbia and Croatia and Bosnia. The Serbs and the Bosnians were the front lines to stop the Turks invading Europe. And as a result, a lot of them died. And we had something called janissaries. A lot of these people had to, on the force of threat of, you know, chopping off their families' heads and stuff like this, that they said, okay, we convert. Right? So if you go to a lot of parts in Bosnia where my family's from, you'll see these jamie, which they're popping up everywhere in Toronto, which is those mosques, right? We call them jamie. As a kid, I used to think they were rocket ships, and every 5 o'clock, you know, they'd be like, ah, you know, they don't care about anybody else. They don't care about the Catholics or the Orthodox in here. They just care about themselves, so they can scream through those speakers. Now, my family had a large plot of land back home. My mother can't return to that because during the war, the Saudis came in and flooded the area. And, you know, a lot of ISIS go there as well. So she can't return home. That land is gone. It's been taken by the Saudis. So as mass continues to grow, the dynamics change. And, you know, if you don't put a stop to it, yeah, you could say, hey, guys, you know what? Look, there's a piece of paper that shows us what they believe in. Well, I don't need that because I could tell you what they believe in. They're very vocal.
Circumcision. That's what I think. Ban circumcision.
Is that going to help? They're going to do it anyway.
And then, well, prosecute them. Like, follow through with the prosecution, right? You like put them away for, I don't know, 10 years for abusing their kids or something, right?
Yeah, that's one thing. Will it happen? Who has the balls to do it?
The problem is you got to be really careful about applying laws that are going to like target a specific set of people or whatnot, because eventually that shit is going to be used against you. Like, you know, we're talking about like the burqa ban and stuff like that, right? Like the face covering ban that other cities want. But in a lot of cities right now in France and stuff, they're banning face coverings because of the yellow vest people, right? So a lot of these laws sometimes that we want to shut up Muslims will be used against us down the road if we're not careful about how we apply these laws, because now you might want to cover your face in the future if you're going to go out and protest because of the way society is moving. That if you're a white kid and you smile at a native, you're going to have your whole fucking life ruined. So
I did a video on that. You should watch it.
Yeah, send me a link to your channel in the chat here. Send me a link. But it's like, you know, it might be more and more, we might want to be able to cover our faces in the future with the way things are getting. That
I can't talk openly. I can't have a debate openly with a Muslim. And, you know, I had one debate at my work once, and I talked to him about why. I said, what about Aisha? What about her? Oh, that's not. And I read a little bit of their book, right? They have 3 books, and there's the stories of Muhammad's life, and it reads like a comedy. It's something almost like Church of Scientology. And, you know, I'm telling him, what about Aisha? You know, she was like 12 when you consummated and stuff like that. He's like, oh, that's not true. And I spin the computer on him. Then you change it because it's Wikipedia. And he just kind of like swallowed his words. Oh, blah, blah, blah. You can't. And then he didn't want to talk to me. And I was afraid that, you know, having that discussion, he's going to start coming after me at work and stuff like this and making these accusations. You can't even talk freely anymore about stuff. I stay away from it. I stay away from topics, conservative topics, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid that, you know, my income will be taken away.
Right.
And I need to support my kids. And that's that fear. And why is that fear happening? Because I am now a minority.
Well, yeah, because it's increasingly less and less safe to speak about anything like that. And because we are becoming a minority. And yeah, it's going to happen more and more, right? Like, you're not going to be able to say anything like that. And people are going to get more offended now over stupid little shit. Like there was that, the Quebec group that made fun of Trudeau, right? When he went to India and they dressed up like Indians and shit and made fun of them, right? And they all lost their shit. And they're like, this is racist, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, see, we're going to get more and more of that. The more people we bring in, they're all going to be offended for their group. And then that's how we're going to lose freedom of speech and shit, because they're going to be somebody who's like, well, this offends me. And that's what they're already doing. Like, Islamophobia, and we need to censor people because hate speech and whatnot. See you Tuesday. I'll see you. See you.
Is he going?
Oh,
is Gator going?
Oh no, I think he's coming to move into my house soon with him and Mama Bear and a couple people.
Oh,
no, they're not moving in. They're just joking. They're messing around.
Full house. So look, I speak from experience, and I've seen. I don't think Canadians are aware when shit hits the fan what intertribal groups start to fight. I've been there in '95 when the Balkan War exploded. It was hell, nightmare. They had their little factions, and everybody wanted to tear everybody's throat out. And it's like Dante's Inferno. You go from one level to the next level to the next level until it's just complete utter madness. I was there with a guy. It was like we called him Yunko Wayne, because John Wayne. He called us. I'm Yunko Wayne. Converted a freaking shotgun into like a revolving revolver, but made of shotgun shells. And he was just insane from all the shit that he's seen, right?
Right.
And Canadians don't have that experience. They don't. When everybody's always acting like a big tough guy. Oh, this is going to happen. Right. But when it does happen, I've seen guys there from Canada. It was like a youth corps. We went there to help and stuff. And when they started shelling, and a lot of one guy was peeing his pants. A gay guy there in the corner. Oh, what are you going to do? And I'm slapping the shit out of him. I was like, dude, get the girls on the bus and snap out of it. You're the coordinator. You're the leader. Act like a leader.
Where was this?
Is in a place called Ravno, which means straight, is near Herzegovina. There was a valley, and the Serbs were on one side, and the Croats were on the other side. We were there with the Croats, with the youth, it was a youth corps that came. We had the girls on one side, the boys on the other side, and we did our own thing. And they started shelling. They broke the truce. And you just, you would hear it, and the soldiers were trying to calm us down. And he says, like, okay, you're okay. Don't worry about it. If you hear it, you're okay, because it flies over your head. You just hear, shh, and then, it destroys the building and whatever.
Right.
And, one guy started pissing his pants. He was a big nationalist from Canada. Oh, yeah, I'm a big Croatian. Oh, yeah, I'm a big Croatian. Yeah. Well, when they started shelling, you pissed your pants, right?
I know a lot of people speak like, oh, we're going to take shit back in force and blah, blah, blah. We're going to kill everybody. It's like, man, you know what? You don't want to do that. A lot of people, they think like war is glamorous or like cool or something. I don't know. Maybe they watch too many movies, but it's fucking brutal. War is brutal. It's horrible. It's disgusting.
So it'd be really interesting to watch. Right. And it's going to be really interesting to
avoid it as much as possible.
Absolutely. And when you get all these groups together, watch the sparks fly. I see arguments now with Asians and Indians, and watching these two argue, spurg out at each other is entertainment. I should do a video on it once if I can catch them in the act, right? Like they cut each other off, and once, going mad Indian on the Chinese person's going all mad, and it's a brouhaha.
Right.
There's no etiquette anymore. Hey man, I'm sorry I cut you off. I made a mistake. I do it sometimes. I accidentally cut someone off. I'm like, I raised my hand. Yeah, sorry man, I didn't mean it, or whatever. That doesn't happen like it did in the old days. Now it's just they want to come out of the car, and the guy, I put my parking light on at one of the Chinese malls. Was going to pick something up. I was parking in the thing, and the guy's like, he thinks, he's a big shot because he was in a Lambo with his 16-year-old whore or whatever, and he's trying to act like a tough guy. And I get out of the car, and my wife's yelling at me, don't, because And then what? I hit the guy and go to jail, get tasered for life. I can't do that anymore. And that's what I feel. I'm at the gym at the Y. I see a white guy there fuming because he's been waiting for a parking spot patiently, and this Chinese person just goes zoom, takes the thing, and he gets out, and I could see the frustration. His face is all red. He's like ready to kill. Mother, you see me? And the Chinese person just kind of brushes him off.
Right.
There's animosity growing because people are no longer united. Everybody's doing their own thing.
Right. We're especially polarized right now. Like by so much, especially like, in America, like that's just scary to see how polarized people are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm still here. I'm just thinking about when you talk about America, it's a sad thing, what we're watching, but that's perpetrated by the government, right? Like the Democrats.
Yeah.
And to some extent, even like people put a lot of
it.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, a lot of promises. Trump. I'm for Trump. I get a lot of flack by my workers. They make fun of me. Oh, you support Trump? And I said, I don't support Trump. I support what he says in that moment. And if you go, why don't you like him? Well, he's a misogynist. Okay, in what way? What way is he misogynist? Tell me. No worries. Well, I'm ready. You convince me. Nothing. He's just a misogynist. You're just regurgitating that ruminated democratic bullshit that's been fed to you. But at the same time, I can be critical of the man. I could say, well, he had the House, he had the Senate, build the goddamn wall. Build what you were going to say, and don't deviate from it. And now he lost. He only has the House.
Well, he there's a temporary reopening of like 3 weeks, so we'll see. There's gonna be another fucking shit show, but yeah, I agree with you as well. Like, I agree with what he stands for, not necessarily everything about him, and like I don't think everything about him is great or whatnot, but generally, most generally is against the globalists, and that's why they fucking hate him to a large extent, like because of just the disruptions and the global trade policies that's going on, because America is pulling out of the TPP, the Paris Climate Accord, all of these national agreements, all these governments. The biggest fucking guy in the game who's spending the most is pulling out. So now they're all fucking scrambling, like, who's gonna fund this? Who's gonna fund this? How are we gonna fucking do this? And they were all of our countries were gonna sell us out to China if it wasn't for Trump essentially coming in and
he knows better. He's a businessman first and foremost, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He knows where the bread is buttered. He can hold them hostage at that because they need us for now.
And that's the thing. That's what I like about him being a billionaire and stuff, because he can't be bought off like a lot of these other politicians that are selling us out the same way, because he's not making money like all these, like Obama. He's fucking had no money. Now he's like has like more than $100 million and all this shit. All these, especially the Democratic presidents, when they leave office, they're millionaires afterwards. They make so much fucking money. But Trump is not going to make money. He's losing tons and tons and tons of money, and people are making that argument like, oh, he's doing this for money. It's like, you got to be fucking delusional if you think that. So it's like, I have more faith in him to do what's in best interest of America and their economy, because he knows how business works and all this shit, and it is working. His tariffs are working. His tariffs are working against us. They're working against China. They're making them billions of dollars, and China is losing out. We're losing out, and it's like,
yeah, but we have no nationalist stance. We don't take pride. I'm very critical of the country because I was born here and I love Canada. My problem is that we have all the goddamn oil. We give it free to the Americans. This doesn't make sense to me.
Look at our pipelines. We can't get pipelines built to go to other markets, so we have to give it to them for such a shitty price because we have no other alternatives, right? It's the only people we're trading with energy, and then we have the trans pipeline destroy. We have all these other pipelines,
which partially the Chinese own.
right? And it's crazy, right? Yeah, there's so much influence that we have, and Canada is like an open market. It's crazy. Our laws, like, we are the biggest sellout to fucking China out of all of the countries like in the world. Essentially, like, Canada is like the biggest fucking sellout. Like, none of the Five Eyes, even Australia, they were like, no, China's not allowed to own, like, any property in Australia. They're not allowed to own that. It's like, yeah, why do we allow it? It's insanity. But
because we've always been weak. We've always, the Canadians, from my perspective, have always seen themselves. This is what Canadians do. Since I was born here, I've always been on the outside of Canadians because I know how Anglo-Saxons treated my family when we came here. As, oh, you communists and stuff. My dad spoke 5 languages. He says, which ones do you speak? Do you speak German, Russian? I also speak Japanese. No. Do you speak English? Yes, I do. No, you don't. And he was very respectful in this sense, but he hated communists. He hates communists because he knows what it's about, right? Everybody praises their Tito was very good. He told Stalin off. Yeah. But it was still 5,000 dinars to buy a loaf of bread. Cut me a break. Now, the thing is, Canadians always see themselves by what? What do Canadians define themselves as? Not American.
Yeah, right. It's
I'm not American. Oh.
Yeah, and that's how we're manipulated, essentially, because they're like, oh, well, see, we love our private healthcare, or our socialized healthcare. We love this. Like, we got to be different than them. We can't be like a free market like them. Not that they are, but like, it's like, yeah, we're defined by being the opposite of America, or trying to be the opposite of them. And
we pride ourselves because we have healthcare. Now,
yeah,
read Mel Hertig's book, The Truth About Canada. Everyone should read this. And when he talks, because they're all Canadians, healthcare. Yeah, okay, it's healthcare. But when Taiwan wanted to bring into a healthcare system, they went and they sent an entourage around the world to study different healthcare systems, and they, I think, are in the top 10 or top 5 of the best healthcare systems in the world. For example, you don't show up to your appointment, that's a notch on you coming in next time and securing they have like online, for example, what's your issues in this, and they do triaging very, very efficiently than what we do here, where the doctor, what happens is, I always question this, you go to the doctor, they sit you in the general waiting area. Okay, you wait there for an hour, then you go and see the doctor. He sits you in his room for 40 minutes. Is he billing you during that time? I mean, the whole system's broken. That's why I support having.
Oh, fucked.
This is why I support having, a 2-tier system, because if I would like to have the option. I'll pay $150 if it means I could get back to work and make $150 in my pocket.
Yeah, like the healthcare system it's insane, because like so many people go to the emergency room and that don't need to go to the emergency room, and they do happen to be majority like immigrant people and shit that do that, or like Aboriginals and shit. That's just the case. And they go to walk-ins and all that stuff, and they don't need to, and they could set up, like, I remember looking at some stats. They're like, yeah, like 90% of these people that were in these waiting rooms, because there's like a 40% increase in waiting room times for people and all this stuff, or increase of people recently. And like 90% of those people there could have, avoided all that if they set up like their own doctor or something like that. And, some people, yeah, they don't have their pure citizenship just yet or something, I guess. They don't have their health card. So they have to go to the emergency clinic, right? They have to go there because the walk-in won't even take them either. So they have to go to the emergency. And then it's like, and then it clogs up everything for everybody. Like, I was pepper sprayed, maced, I remember, and I was like waiting in the waiting room for so long. My jaw was all fucked up because I got jumped and like sucker punch. So my jaw was just like, you know, I thought it was broken. And I literally, the guy, I wait 5 hours. I finally get, I sit in there and he puts a stick in my mouth and twists it. He's like, bite down. Oh, your jaw's fine. You can go home. And I'm like,
you could have done that like 40 minutes ago. That's what happened to my wife.
Walked in the goddamn walking room and like, hey, oh, your jaw's pretty fucked. And plus I had like, I was all maced. So I was burning and I'm like putting like milk on me. And I'm like, give me more fucking milk. They gave me like a bit of milk and then I used it. I'm like, give me more fucking milk. I'm like yelling the fucking thing. Give me some more fucking milk. Like,
and then they're rude with you when you get upset.
oh yeah, like, you know, they're rude fucking assholes. And you know, I've heard some bad stories. Somebody else was telling me one where I don't know, there's some woman and like the nurse was like, I don't know, talking shit about her, and then she's like, well, you're having a great day, and she like, I don't know, slammed the door on her, and like you just hear them like talking shit about the clients, or I mean the patients. And once again, it's because it's public, right? These people are not going to lose their jobs. They're not going to do anything like that. There's no real standards. But if there was competition in the private healthcare system, that person would probably be fired. And because you know, that business doesn't want to be portrayed as some uncaring with a bunch of shitty staff, right? Because everybody's going to go to the different hospital. But because we have this public healthcare, people have no choice. They're like, well, I have to use this one, essentially. And these people are going to treat me like shit, whether I want or not. Like, listen to old white guy and his story with his wife, what happened to her fucking arm. The doctor like mangled up her arm and then said something like, you know, oh, they took away his doctor, like now that he no longer has a family doctor because he complained and said like, hey, you fucked up my wife's, so now he gets punished. And you're like, it's like, what the fuck? This is our system, you know? It makes no sense.
There's Canadians going to the US, imagine that, to get healthcare.
Oh yeah, lots, thousands.
But it worked well, you know, and it worked well when we didn't have the numbers that we have now, right? We have more people on welfare. We have more people making less. Like, there's university students, good kids coming out of university, decent people who want to have a job. They can't find a job. And when they do get a job, forget about that dream of owning a house. They're even selling it to you on CBC now. And all these bullshit media is like, hey, you know, it's okay to live at home. Just 10 years ago, it says, like, you know, you should be buying, like Susan Pegg from the Toronto Star. Like, one day, oh, it's really bad, you should buy the economy, you know, the house prices are dropping, sell. And the next minute, oh yeah, now it's doing really well, buy. You know, like mania. That's like, to me, the definition of like manic depressive. And
just do the opposite of whatever the government recommends. You know, always do the opposite, and you'll be okay.
And the thing is that now, because of the numbers that we have, and there's less people paying into the system, there's more people taking out, the healthcare won't work.
And that's the whole argument with bringing in immigrants, right?
Right. We need to stop. We need to put a moratorium on immigration. And nothing's going to change. We're just going to keep doing the same shit again.
Yeah, no, it's going to continue, and it's not. I agree. We should stop all immigration, essentially, as soon as possible. You know, like,
look, I listened to Joe Haze, and I like the guy. He seems like a decent fellow, a good soul. I listened to Julie Moira, another good soul, a sweet girl, and I hear their stories, and I'm just thinking, guys, toughen up, have a hard shell, and demand things that will make a change. First, demand that immigration has a moratorium. They talked about it 30 years ago about shutting the taps down. And what they did, they increased the taps, and then they did something else, which was the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. That was the Liberals that introduced that. And then the Harper government didn't take it away. They upped it, right? And it's still around. And that's in addition to the immigration numbers.
Right. And people are very afraid of talking about being replaced, right? And that's, I think, what we really need to just start saying is, in plain English, in very plain fucking English, you are being replaced. Now, we don't have to get into, oh, well, what are you saying? It's the Jews, or are you saying it's this, or are you saying it's that, or whatever. It's just like, no. It doesn't matter whether it's being done intentionally or unintentionally. we are being replaced if we continue on the course we are going on. And a lot of white Canadians, I don't think, truly grasp that, truly really grasp it and really think about it, or even know about it. I don't think a lot of them really realize it. Like regular Canadians that don't pay attention to the news, that don't pay attention to anything like that, like those people, you know, like your dad or your mom. I don't know about people in your family, but just think about people in your family. Like how many of them do you think know that we're being replaced, right? Or think about it? Probably very few.
I can play both sides. I can play like, for example, several sides. I can play the Slavic side. I can play the Chinese side. I can play the Anglo side, right?
Right. But what about your wife, right? Does she understand that Canada should remain a majority white country?
So, like most Chinese, they're very jingoistic, even when they try not to be. For example, I remember we talked about Meng, and she blew up. Oh, the Canadians are so bad, and Huawei is so good. They just want to go after Huawei. Yeah, but why do you live here then? And she shuts up, right? So,
I know people just can't help their fucking tribalism, eh? You know?
Well, look. I'll give you an example. This is kind of a funny story, and I'll tell you quickly. So I have a very good black friend, and we're like really best friends. We grew up here. We went to high school together and university, and I know his kids, he knows my kids, and whatever. So he goes to a Christian church and blah blah blah, and he's going to Africa, and I'm like, I want to go with you. I want. Not as a Christian, but I want to go visit. I want to see this place that's always in the dark on the map. It's something that I would enjoy, right? Because I want to see all parts of how people live. And I tell her this, and she's I don't know, she was upset because he didn't want to help her that day or something. She enjoys him, she likes him and stuff, she knows him, but I don't know, she was bitchy that day. And we're walking through Walmart, and I tell her the story. I was like, well, that's where he belongs. And I said, well, what do you mean that's where he belongs? That's where we all belong. That's where we came from. No, we didn't. No, the Chinese came from a cave. And I said, well, apparently you didn't leave it either.
Right.
It's this kind of back and forth banter, but she is getting blackpilled, and she believes that Canada should be for Canada, China should be for China, and all of these things. Right. But unfortunately, when there's a mass of them, they think opposite. They really do.
Yeah, they do, and that's the problem, right? Like I agree that
they think we're dumb, and we are, because they're like, we're selling them house. You can't buy property in China. Do you know that? You cannot go there.
They don't let us buy property,
no.
Or even a lot of their own people buy property. I don't think they can even buy property there. I don't know.
In Malaysia, just last year, just before the new year, I think it was in October or November, the Malaysian president had put a ban on Chinese foreign ownership. He says, no more, guys. It's enough. You're destroying my economy.
It just shows you what our leaders, who they're really for. They're really for selling us out to globalists and shit, and Chinese and whoever. They don't care about us, because leaders that actually did care about us, they would make it illegal, right? And even for their own benefit, right? It's not even like, it's like China, they don't make it illegal to benefit their people. They do it so they don't get their economy fucked and shit, and get it, what's going on with our economy right now too. You know what I mean? Like maybe they, I don't really believe the Chinese care that much about their own people, to be honest. Like I think to some extent, but
well, it's again, they're a very unique bunch, so they care about their
whole
immediate family
thing. Like
and my wife has mentioned this too. She's agreed with me that the communists have really damaged them in their soul, body, and mind. Damage them in the sense that they only care for their inner family. Anything outside of the family, even though I say, what happens in the world happens to us, and you need to remove yourself if you can, but if you can't, you deal with it. But with them, it's like it's my immediate family. I don't give a shit. But what happens is, through the communist, if like there's something called the Chinese syndrome in China. And if you go there, be very careful not to run into an old person. Because if you just lightly touch them, they'll fall. They're like, oh, I broke my hip. And then you're like, oh, the natural inclination for most people, and the most normal people, would be, oh, let me help you up. And they start screaming that you've thrown them, and then a group builds, and then a bigger group, and then all of a sudden they start saying, you know, "Guai Lo" and all of these things, and speaking disparaging you, and they said that you had spoken against the Zhongguoren, which is Chinese. You spoke against them poorly, and then they all kind of like, nobody questions like, hey, what's going on? Like, I saw what happened. Nope, they all like line up and get together, and you're fucked. You either run or get arrested. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And they are, in that sense, it's very unique, right?
I heard that one guy spurred it. I can't remember. He's the guy South American or South African, lives in China. He said that like
Speranza, right? Yeah,
Brent, I think he said something like one of his buddies or something, or somebody knew, or I forget, or I don't know if he was there, or there's some. You see this one like foreigner guy. He was like stabbed by this guy with a katana, like this Asian guy, Chinese guy, and like people just walk by, like nobody helped him. Like they just walk by and they're just like, you know. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, I think that happens in a lot of countries, other than like, you know, I think that does happen here, but as well, but I think there's more of like a, I don't know. People in Western countries seem to like help people. That seems.
Look at
like,
this.
like
So
need help.
Jon Snow in the chat is saying, "Why so much hate for China? I don't hate China. I don't hate the Chinese. All I'm saying
His
is."
wife's Chinese.
Oh, is she?
No, your
you
wife.
telling Jon Snow?
Wife.
Yeah, she's Chinese. Yeah.
His wife
So
was
what I'm.
Chinese, Jon Snow.
So Chinese are ugly. Okay.
Personal opinion.
Who cares? It's okay. I'm all right with that. Everybody has their own thing, right? But
Yeah,
listen,
everybody's got their own shit.
I don't hate the Chinese. I don't hate the Indians. I don't hate the Muslims.
I love Chinese people.
But do that in where, you know, I dislike and I hate when you push your shit onto me in my own home.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly, right? And that's the thing. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate Chinese people. I don't hate, but I don't want to live by your culture. I don't want to live in your culture. I don't want to do things the way you do things.
Right.
You came to Canada voluntarily, and now you want to tell me how to do things? Nah. And you're going to tell me that I'm shit, my country's shit, or whatever, or whatnot. It's like, no. Go back to your country then if it's so fucking great. You left for a fucking reason, and now you're going to complain and this. And yeah, I agree. There are a lot of lazy Canadians, but once again, you know, like there's many reasons for that. And, you know, that has to do with the government or, you know, people themselves, their own personal problems, whatever. But, you know,
so the thing is, how do we, so let's circle back, right? Because we've been talking for quite some time, and I want to give, I don't want to take away from the people here in the chat, because I know they want to participate, and I like people participating. I was hoping more would come on the call. But here, let me ask you this. What is our end game? Because we fucked up the country. It's fucked now. So what is our end game? Are we going to continue to do what we do and hope for the best? Because that's not going to work. Or are we going to think about something, thinking outside the box?
Right. Well, you know, what is the end game? Obviously, what do we all want? What do we think is going to be good for Canada or just me and my family in general? Well, that would be a more homogenous country. So obviously, you know, I would want to work towards that to some extent, not because I want to be surrounded by whiteys and I love white people so much and I'm afraid of black and brown and Asians and whatnot, but I just understand the problems with multiculturalism and having a bunch of different groups in Canada at once, you know, with tribalism and all trying to vie for control of the power of the government to implement whatever they think is right from their cultural perspective or whatnot. But, you know, what I want? Yeah, I would want obviously a majority, but how are we going to get there? What are we going to do to get to that stage? Well, you know, there at the stage we're heading right now, it seems like there's very little that we can do other than use social media and what is given to us to try to change people's minds. And social media is a great thing. It is amazing. That's why it's being censored at the rate it's being censored now, because
they fear us.
They do fear us, and it has been changing the opinions of people. And they can't censor us all, right? You know, that's why I encourage as many people to make channels and as possible. because the more people that talk about this, the more people that make channels, the better chance we have of at least waking people up. And that's all the chance I see right now, because right now it's kind of like, yeah, we're headed for fucking disaster. That's how I see it. And when Max came around and all this, maybe it's diversion or whatever, but I'm like, well, okay, at least finally somebody's speaking somewhat like conservative type principles, or libertarian or whatever, you know. He's saying some of the right things that I've never heard in so fucking long in Canada and stuff, that I'm like, you know, because before he even showed around, I was kind of like blackpilled in Canada as well at the same time, and maybe I will be again, but it was kind of like, yeah, we're fucked. We're fucked with Scheer, with the shit that they're saying and all that, how cucky our leaders are in Canada. I'm like, yeah, we're headed for fucking disaster. And then finally I hear somebody come around that's saying at least some things to maybe wake some Canadians up, that maybe we can do things a little bit differently. Maybe we don't need to do something about climate change, that conservative leaders like Andrew Scheer has, you know, fallen in line with, and saying like, oh, I agree, you know, we need to do something, but the conservative plan is going to be different, right? So I'm not saying that, oh, he gets in power, everything's going to be roses and whatnot, but all I really want to do is try to convince as many people as possible that a large government is bad, a small government is better, more freedom is better. And if people don't want to listen to me and we all head towards collapse and replacement, I'll be like, hey, I fucking told you so. And I won't feel bad about it, right? I'll survive. I'll get a gun. I'll go live at my dad's in the fucking country. You know, he's got a house there, a well, you know, fucking a hunt for my food, and then whatever. You know, when everything goes to shit, I'll be fine. I'll be okay. But in that meantime, hopefully I'll convince as many fucking people as possible to, like, you know, choose freedom, choose a smaller government, because that is going to stop us from repeating the same things we're going through right now with our replacement through the government, because immigration is a government program, right? It's not just like these immigrants are not just going to come over without the government subsidizing them at the rate that they are doing, giving them jobs, you know, giving them all these extra shit, because in a freer society without all this money being given to these people, they would actually have to compete. So most of them wouldn't even come here.
My father said to me like this. He says, my father said to me, if you ever find me on welfare, I want you to put a bullet in my head. I will, if I end up in a wheelchair or anything like this, I will drag myself to do the job. Right? This is the old mentality, but I'll end it because I know there's a individual that wants to come on. I don't want to take everybody's time, right? Like we can chat other times as well, but I will leave it at this. If, and I do foresee the shit hitting the fan, I can always return to my country. Croatia will welcome you in with open arms. So will Poland, no problem. Frank Vaughan, all of your Rants Derek, all of you guys are welcome there, because it seems that area of the world is standing full front and says, hey guys, what the hell are you doing, right?
Right. Yeah, you know, like it's all about competition. Oh, sorry, I was reading something, but
anyway, so listen, I know Mysterious Blue Space Entity wants to get in. I'm gonna Croatians are savages. Actually, to that point, I just want to speak to that point. So we are crazy Croats, and you know, there's a history where we used to be called the Illyrians, and we pushed back the Romans, and the Romans were very tough at that time, and I think it was like around the ending era, 780 or something like that. But the Illyrians pushed them back. The Greeks called us warrior savages, barbaric savages, great warriors, but insane. So don't fuck with us. Yeah. Anyways, I'll leave it with that. I know there's some people want to have your ear and your attention. So it's been a nice chat. I hope we can talk again. I think we
man, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool.
I think I pwned you. I think that's what we're gonna leave with. I devastated you. That's what the chat says. Hit one.
Really?
Hit
one.
2
for me.
Hit 1 for AJ. Destroying Fredrick. Utterly. I think we all saw it. We were all there. We all witnessed it. No, I'm joking. No, it was a good chat. No, I had a good time.
Yeah.
You know, I prefer that than like some like aggressive debate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we going to learn from each other at that point? I agree with a lot of what you're saying, essentially, right? You know, and I think I understand why people are avert, don't want to support Max, and I'm not doing it in the same sense. Like I'm naive about it, thinking like, oh, this is our savior of Canada, and once he is in, you know. But it's like, hey,
As long as people see
on the
that
only
he's not.
Go ahead.
As long as people see that he is not the savior, and remember this, those that disappoint you in the least shall always disappoint you in the most.
Well, see, I have no expectations of anybody, right? I assume the worst of everybody. So then when they do the opposite, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm like, oh, great, you know. But I often expect the worst, and maybe that's bad, but I do expect the worst in people. And but then that way, when they do fail me, I'm not disappointed, right?
Right.
And that's kind of a part of stoicism, right? It's your expectations you hold out for other people, right?
Yeah.
And I never have high expectations. That's why it's like, you know, if Trump were to flip to Mora, I'd be like, well, you know, I could see that. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on though.
No worries. And I want to let the other person on because I think.
Yeah, I'll send the invite in the chat there.
All right. Thanks everybody for putting up with my bullshit. Take care.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
I won. Kick your ass. Keep ass. No, I'm kidding. No, I didn't win. All right, man. All right, here, 1 second, guys. So, I put it in the description below. Jordan, AJ sells his semen to Trudeau. All laws are made with guns, or less. You know, they're upheld with guns. Easy, only 100% Euro immigration for 2 decades. If it doesn't work, I'll call you back. Yeah, try it out. Shut up, you power-hungry loser. Yeah, Gator. He's power-hungry, man. Don't tell me what to do. You're all robotic voice right now. Am I? Am I robotic voice? Ah, fuck. Okay, better now? Okay, maybe it was just the... Did you miss the whole me destroying Fredrick in this debate that we had, Saint? Did you see me destroy him? Gators against free speech. It's back to normal. Okay, it's all good. Give me a few moments. Trudeau's a troll. Trudy is a troll, you mean? Not Trudeau. I missed it. Yeah, you know, I smacked him down so hard. I just utterly defeated him. But you know, he'll tell you differently, I'm sure. If you want a better job and a better income, why not work harder instead of attacking China? The hell are you Chinese, Jon Snow? And I make like pretty good money. So I make well above minimum wage. I'll tell you that. So and there's not any Chinese people working my job either, and they're not going to work my job because a lot of them probably aren't physically strong enough to work it. But there's no, I don't. Nobody. I don't know, man. It's just the economy, right? Don't sell out Canada to China. That's nothing against Chinese people. Just don't sell out Canada to China, right?
Hey, can you hear me? Hello?
Hey, what's up, buddy? Just 1 sec. I'm going to take a bond rip.
Is my microphone working?
Yeah, it's working.
Oh, hey, what's up?
What's up, man?
Yeah, go ahead. There's some things I want to talk about. It's mysterious blue space here, so...
What do you want to bring up?
Oh, I just want to talk about regional vote splitting. So when people talk about vote splitting, they don't realize it's down to regional, where you have, let's say, for example, 22% vote conservative, 23% PPC. The rest of everyone else votes for other parties. Liberals get only 25% of the vote, but they still get a seat, and that's what I'm worried about. Even though you have 60 to 70% of Canadians voting against Trudeau, he still has a chance of getting in power, which is very alarming. So
You're alarmed of Trudeau having the possibility of getting in power again?
yeah, because of the regional vote splitting,
Right.
because of the PPC, and that's what majority of people, when they think about vote splitting, right, they're thinking about it from a different perspective. They don't see it from a regional.
Was that a good or a bad thing? If the Conservatives lose,
we want Trudeau out at all costs, but at the same time, I don't trust Scheer because he created this whole mess with the PPC, which he could have corrected a long time ago, which he had lots of time to do.
right? If they just came out as an actual conservative party, they would have, gotten all of the support that they lost from the PPC and some, right? If they came out as a true conservative party, and they also, stopped being such dumb whores about the legalization of weed and a few other social conservative topics, they would be in a much better spot of usurping Trudeau or whatever. But like you said, Trudeau, I mean, Scheer handled it badly and stuff. And you can say Max wanted power for himself or whatever, and that could be true and probably is or whatever. Who knows? It doesn't really matter at this point.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think that it might actually, in some way, be good that the Conservatives lose to some extent, and bad, right? Like, yes, we don't want another 4 years of Trudeau. I don't want another years of Trudeau. Neither do you. Neither does anybody else. But what's the alternative? Is what a moderate version of Trudeau that is going to lead us to the same eventual destruction or same eventual replacement that we are leading down right now. So if they lose, maybe at least they'll have some type of reform at the very least. That's the best we can fucking hope for at this case, in my opinion, because like I said, voting for them right now is telling them that these policies work, that what they're talking, that they're pandering to other racial groups like they're doing right now, playing identity politics, cucking on the environmental issue, all this other shit. Voting for them right now is telling them, hey, we support you. We think these policy positions are good, yada, 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 right? But if they lose, then maybe they'll have to start to be like, okay, now we have to start being more right-wing, starting to, talk about immigration more and all this other crap. But, that's the way I'm thinking. It's almost kind of like in America, with like the whole Congress during the whole midterm elections. Like Styx made a good analysis kind of like of this. He's like, it would almost be better for the Democrats if the Republicans won the House for the upcoming 2020 election, as opposed to the way that it worked out right now, the Democrats winning the election, because all they're going to do is stonewall Trump. They're going to create a bunch of, and this is going to piss off a lot of people and, kind of ensure Trump wins again. Whereas if they lost, then that would force them to maybe reform the Democratic Party, start to move further to the right, be more moderate. But because they won, now we see the results of that, and that is them moving further to the left. That is them putting AOC, all these other people on the front lines, being like, this is the face of the Democratic Party now, because this is what you people want. Because these candidates won in these elections, a lot of these far left candidates, the first Muslim or the first two Muslim ones, AOC, all these people proposing these like far left ideologies, and that's because nobody is pushing back on that, right? So I'm like, it's debatable. It's kind of like a propaganda. I'm not saying you're using that propaganda, but if people saying like, we cannot have another 4 years of Trudeau, it's like, okay, well,
it's a complete flop show mess. Like what's going on in Ottawa is completely out of hand. Scheer is just created a whole entire mess, and he's trying to play the hero, but he just, like, if Canada loses the next election, or sorry, if Trudeau gets in the next election, I would place the blame on Scheer because he created this whole mess with this regional vote splitting going on, and it's a complete nightmare. What's going on in Canada, like within the last couple years, I've literally watched whole entire communities right in front of my eyes change into something unrecognizable. These people who are coming in, they hate Canadians. They hate our values. You can see that. You can see the distaste. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, for Canadians, and they despise us. They have this distaste for us, and the transformation is unreal. And I am tired of people coming into this country, taking my jobs, taking not my jobs, but other people's jobs. The crime rate's through the roof. I'm fed up. Like, I don't know how much more I can take, and I've been thinking about getting on a boat and leaving this country. Even if we get a different change in government, they're still going to support mass immigration, and it's completely eroding this country entirely. Canada is going to turn into the rest of Africa a shithole. Sorry for swearing, but it's disgusting. And the fact that immigrants have more rights than we do in the criminal justice system, they can commit crimes, get out of jail, not get deported, is insanity. There's just too many words for what's going on. I could sit here and write a book about how screwed we are as Canada. Like, if we vote, let's say we get a conservative government, we're still going to get mass immigration. I think we should shut our borders down for at least 6 years. No more immigration. Enough is enough. I'm voting for the party that says enough for immigration. That's immigration is completely destroying our foundation, and this is the reason why they resort to these tactics, is to completely erode the country. And there's power in numbers, and I think it's more than millions now have flooded this country in the last 4 to 5 years. And picture a city, let's say we'll picture a city, 100,000 people. Do cities just spring up out of the ground nowhere? Cities just don't spring up out of nowhere. And there's been the poverty, the homelessness, the joblessness, the discrimination against Canadians looking for work is out of control, and it's all artificially created. I just want, after you got to say what you want to say, I want to talk about the Humboldt crash stuff, because I found out more information about that today, and I'm absolutely furious about how they're dealing with the situation. But anyway, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What are you furious about that?
Well, okay, I found some more stuff out about the Humboldt crash driver. I looked through court documents and stuff today, and there were multiple warning signs, stop sign. There was a blinking stop sign. There's clear visibility. The Humboldt crash driver even made a statement saying, I know I wasn't supposed to drive because I didn't have the training. So he made that statement saying he didn't have the proper training to be driving. Now, they're only asking for 10 years. Yeah,
it's the minimum.
Yeah, 10 years. I think this guy shouldn't even be out on a $5,000 bail. This guy should be locked in prison right now. The fact that he's out on bail means he can escape the country or do whatever he wants. And I'm still outraged. The guy was driving and he wasn't supposed to. People say that, oh, he didn't see the stop sign or it was accident. Maybe he didn't have the intent to kill people on the bus, but his intent was to blow the stop sign. He probably saw it. He didn't care. He's like, oh, there's probably no cars coming. Let's just blow it anyway.
Well, once again, that's to do with a lot of immigration too, right? And what are if you look at an article I read a couple months ago or a month ago or a couple weeks, that are like, all these companies, they want to increase immigration for trucking, these trucking companies. because they're like, oh, nobody wants to do long haul trucking anymore, blah, blah. We need to bring in a bunch of immigrants to do this. And it's all these like Indians and stuff that own these companies.
But I'm going to say something that's not what you say, but with them wanting to bring in a load of immigration, that's a load of crap. I've seen the same thing happen to communities where people only need a few tickets to just do a simple painting job or construction or whatever, and they'll outsource those jobs overseas and be like, okay, we'll bring immigrants in. All they got to do is give you simple training.
No, I agree. It's bullshit. It's just they don't want to pay more. They either don't want to up their wages or they don't want to pay for training. So it's a lot cheaper to get the government to subsidize it by bringing in workers for them, right? You know, so it's like, yeah, it's you know, they get in through these worker visa programs or whatnot, and it's like it's just cheaper for them, right? And it's not because we need more workers. Yeah, it's lies. It's propaganda to bring in people so then they don't have to pay us as much money.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who need work. There is, and it's just it's lies. It is. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're right. Lots of people need work, and this is the same lies they use in America. I remember there was a story where there was this plant that was opening up, and there was 2 jobs, and like I don't know, some like flyover state like Ohio or something like that. And there was like I forget, the lineup was like 2 miles long of people waiting for like one job, and then you got all these liberals saying, "Oh, you know, we need immigrants and illegals to do these jobs that Americans don't want to do." Blah blah blah, and you're like, "No, that's all lies." You know, it's just it's on behalf of these businesses that just want to pay people next to nothing so they can eke out the competition and become a monopoly, essentially, right? You know, that's how a lot of this shit fucking happens.
Yeah, no, like at first with this mass immigration and these politics and stuff, it didn't worry me so much because the change wasn't visible in front of my face. So it's like, okay, when the first year, and then as soon as these mass influxes of hundreds of thousands of people just start showing up to your community, you live in a community your whole life, you have a sense of community, you know who the people are in your community, right? You feel safe, right? And then just for all of these strangers just show up out of nowhere, you have no clue who they are, they don't speak your language or anything, makes you feel really, really awkward. And you know, as this stuff starts progressing, it gets very, very scary to see that this stuff is right in front of you. And I've never seen this before, where the community I've lived in, I recognize most of the people on the bus or the community and stuff, completely changed into a stranger list. Like, it feels like a bunch of criminals with masks showed up. That's the best way to describe it. You have no idea who's in your community anymore, and you don't feel safe. And that's what this mass immigration is doing to Canada, is changing it into a very unstable, unsafe country. I've seen crime rockets skyrocketing. I've seen with my 2 own eyes immigrant crime and on Canadian too. So I've seen all this change firsthand. I used to drive through little communities and towns where you could get a job anywhere, and it was mostly Canadians working at these places. Now you drive through these places completely just overran and hijacked by immigrants.
Yeah. You go to like a Tim Hortons, you go to any of these things, and now, yeah, it's all people from different countries, and yeah, all these younger kids aren't getting jobs, they're not getting working experience, and then, you know, and then they're like, oh, well, nobody's working, they don't want to work, we got to bring in people to work. It's like, you know, and then they have these mandatory minimum wages, which also makes it even worse a lot of the times, because what a lot of these the mandatory minimum wage does is that, let's just say it's $15 an hour. Well, that's going to cost companies more money. So what are they going to do? They're not going to hire people like teenagers who are less reliable than some old person or some immigrant that they could pay less money, or who don't know all of their, you know, working rights, etc., who is not going to be like also unworkable. You know, like a lot of it, we're becoming, our education system is making people less hireable as well, you know, because they're little SJWs and shit. And like nobody wants to hire those people. So there's all these different factors and why people, you know, aren't working and getting these jobs and shit. And, you know, if it just wasn't for the manipulation of the government, we would be so much better off. But
well, and the other thing is that these people come from these dog eat dog culture mentalities and stuff, and they bring that with them, and they bring their ego with them, and they create the inequality. So they create the inequality with their dog eat dog mentality. They look down on people. They hate Canadians. They have a huge distaste for Canadian culture, and that's what we're bringing in. This is what happens when you bring in the third world. You bring violence. You bring all of this mentality with you into the country that you're immigrating from. So if someone's immigrating from a nice first world country, they would be bringing all those things with them to our country. But we're allowing people from third world countries bring all their luggage here, and which I mean by luggage is their mentality, their way of life, the way of how they think of other individuals and human beings, and it totally erodes the whole fabric of Canadian society.
yeah, we're bringing people in who, in some of their countries, they stone people to death. You know what I mean? Like where everybody in the fucking village watches somebody get like rocks thrown at them until they die. And, you know, we're like, oh, this is a good idea. Let's bring in more people like this. Let's be like, you know what? And also people just naturally have more allegiance to people who look like them. So, you know, bringing in people who look different, who have different cultures, they're never going to feel the same type of sympathy for people who look different than them than for the people who look like them. So you're going to see, you know, a disproportionate, you know, use of how people treat like white or black or whatever people in like healthcare or with the criminals and or with the police and stuff. Like, you know, white people and white cops get like kind of like demonized as being extremely racist and, you know, treating minorities and stuff different. But white people, more than other groups, are less tribalistic and are less willing to give like white people a break. Whereas I think that's going to be not quite the same with a lot of like Muslim police, you know, kind of looking the other way in Muslim areas, letting them do their own thing and having a Sharia law and all that stuff. They're going to kind of look the other way. So, you know, it's not really a good idea. And they're not going to have the same maybe zeal or, you know, to find certain criminals as opposed to other criminals, right? So yeah, it's just not a good. Now in Canada, what we're letting in a bunch of, we're gonna make it so in the army, we're gonna start letting immigrants into the army now, and also the Canadian forces. We're gonna like lower the qualifications, let a bunch of people in. We're gonna lower the qualifications on crime and like offenses because to diversify the police force, because if we don't do that, we can't get an equal enough representation of like Aboriginals and black people and stuff. So the only way to do it for them is to lower the qualifications on like, you know, whether you've done a crime in your past or something. So it's pretty fucked up, and we're just gonna get worse and worse the more multicultural we become. And that's just,
well, it's like if you go to, let's say you go to a nice first world Western country, there's still parts of the UK that are predominantly British culture, but if you go to these places, you go to their shopping town centers, markets and stuff, the one thing that really stands out about these certain countries that are first world countries is the culture. The culture in there is very nice. It's beautiful. The things that people make in these places, the environment and everything is very pleasant. Now, if you go to a third world country and you look at the environment, the streets, it's a night and day difference. And by allowing nice cultures into your country, you make your country a much better place. By allowing third world immigration in, your country will start to degrade itself and start to, the scenery, the everything, the senses there about the, you know, your community and everything completely changes depending on what type of immigrant you're bringing into the country. I was never against I am against mass immigration, but I was never against immigration. If there was immigration coming from places where there's really nice people, there's no crime and stuff, that would be okay. But it has to be controllable too. So,
well, even that's a problem, right? Like you can bring in a bunch of South Asians, or I mean South Koreans from Seoul, where they have like a very low crime rate. Yeah, we're not going to have increased crime, but that's not really the problem. Like that is a problem, but that's almost like a secondary problem, is the crime. The real problem is the disproportionate representation of
can I just
white
pause you
people.
for a second, and then I'll let you talk for a bit? As of right now, I think we should shut our borders down for 6 to 8 years. No more immigration. That's it. That's all. No more immigration. One other thing I got to tell you, I have a relative from Ontario, right? He knows a few immigrants, and what they're doing, these immigrants are abusing the loopholes, and what they are doing is, because of chain immigration and stuff, they'll move here, right? They'll have 5 or 6 family members take out a mortgage. Each one of them will work whatever job they can get. They'll cram 10 people into one house. They'll combine all their income, buy that house, and then once they pay off the house, they'll do it to another house and then chain immigrate more people into Canada. And this is the reason why our housing market is completely broken. Like you can't, so unaffordable, and you can't.
Go ahead. Sorry. It's so unaffordable. Sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
Oh no, I just basically want to say that our housing system is broken because of this chain immigration and people coming in and abusing it and combining their. They know the loopholes really well. And they are abusing it. And there's all these websites, YouTube channels that coach you how to get into Canada. And when you look at these websites or these YouTube channels, it makes you absolutely furious because the loopholes are absolutely silly.
Sorry, exactly. And that's in a lot of just regular countries, they don't have these loopholes. That's why Canada, like I said, is a joke. Like we're a joke and we're a sellout. We're the biggest sellout to China, especially to China. Since 2016, Trudeau, I think McCallum, he's like, I want even more immigration from China into Canada and more like whatever, and like increase the amount of Chinese. It came in by like 1 million, 1,500 whatever. But like, you know, that just, he's like, oh, don't worry, it won't affect the housing crisis, it won't affect anything like that, which is a complete lie. But yeah, you know, these people, they do this. And then we also have birthright citizenship, where you know, if you come to Canada, and the Chinese, the Saudi Arabians, all these people are taking advantage of this. They're having their kids here, and now their kids are citizens. Now they have a foot in the door. Now they can become people or citizens eventually. A lot of refugees do the same thing because of the birthright citizenship. They come in here, they're here for years. Then they're like, oh, I just had a kid randomly. It just happened. And then now they have a way to stay in Canada too. And yeah, everybody's just taking advantage of us. We're just like America, like in a lot of ways, with like what's happening to them. Like they're getting taken advantage of by like Mexicans crossing their border, and also the birthright citizenship that they also have. Like they have the same thing. Like we're some of the only 2 Western countries, or the 2 only countries in the world that have that type of thing set up, where if you're born here, you become a citizen. Everywhere else on the planet, that's pretty much not the case. The only places that is the case is in Canada and America. So that's one thing too we need to abolish and get rid of. But you know, even saying these little things, you know, on the media, people are like, oh my God, he wants to remove birthright. Oh, you're saying these people aren't real Canadians? oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God. So, yeah, that's being taken advantage of. The fact that we allow them to buy houses here and then we can't do the same in China. Like it's such a not reciprocal relationship that we have with China. Like they, they can do whatever they want to us, essentially. Like if you look at the trade deals, essentially, that they sign with China, they can do whatever they want to us. We can do like nothing to them. They can extradite us people from China, and we couldn't do the same to them. It's like just so lopsided. But you see, obviously our politicians are paid off by a lot of Chinese people or whoever else is influencing them in the government to do this shit.
Oh yeah, another thing too that's outrageous, right, is we help all these countries around the world. If something's ever like in World War I and II, we saved Europe, same with the Americans. Now, if something was to ever happen to Canada, if say a war broke out or some country took us over or something happened, would we receive any help at all after we given all this help out to the whole entire world? We would get nothing.
We're going to be, the thing is, it's like we give all this, but at the same time, there's the counter narrative that we're stealing all of this, and that the only reason we're wealthy is because we're pillaging African countries and we're pillaging, third world countries, and this is why America is rich and this is why Canada is rich, which is bullshit. I was listening to Freebird Media earlier today, and he was like, America's rich because it's an empire and it went and took over other places. Well, that's not true. America, yes, has went in and done a bunch of costly wars, but that hasn't increased the GDP necessarily of their country. And they didn't build their wealth off of imperialism, just like Canada didn't build our wealth off of imperialism, just like Europeans didn't build their wealth necessarily off of imperialism in today. Like, yes, initially they're imperialists, but we built this wealth through the free market, through allowing people freedoms to own property, to buy and sell.
Can I pause you for a second?
But like what I was saying though is like that a lot of people, they think that we stole everything. So I'm saying that some people in the alt-right, they actually kind of further the leftist narrative by giving into that, because you're saying like, oh, we got everything and now we need to be imperialist and we need to take what we want and stuff. But, a lot of the wealth we have today didn't exist before. It was created through the free market. It didn't.
Are you still in there? Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Well, the one thing about them accusing us of stealing other people's wealth, no, it's completely ass backwards. They're actually trying to steal our wealth, and you have other countries like Saudi Arabia, China, all these other countries out there who are trying to stop resource development. They are doing everything in their power to stop Canada from making oil, from getting resources, from getting
right. The Tides Foundation's fucking up our shit too, right?
Yeah, and it's like they are literally trying to tie our hands as tight as possible, and with us allowing non-Canadian citizens to get into positions of power is another noose around our neck, because then they can put their own spies into school, send them to Canada, get into the government and do whatever they want, and that's already starting to happen. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we have 50 senators and MPs that have dual citizenship to different countries right now. They have dual citizenship. So who do you think they have allegiance to, us or the country they came from? Not us, right? And that's something that needs to be stopped too. All these, are we going to expect that these people who with dual citizenship are going to have our best interest at heart? No, they're not. They're always going to have allegiance to the country they came from or whatnot. That's why I think people need to be here for 3 generations to vote, and for 3 generations to be eligible to go into office. If you're not here for that long, then you're allowed to live here, but you can't vote. You can't run an office. You can
should be born
own a business or whatever, but you can't do any of that other shit until you've been here for 3 generations. And so that's going to weed out a lot of people right away who are not going to want to fucking go through all that shit. But like I was saying though, initially though, is like the idea, I mean, the what do you call it? The narrative is that whites stole everything they have. So when we're gonna be fucked one day and we're gonna need help, people are gonna like spit on us, is what I'm assuming, because they're gonna think like, well, this is what you deserve because of all the history of racism and slavery and residential schools, and now you whites are getting a piece of your own medicine. Like that is kind of what we're heading towards in the future, you know, whereas the reality is white people created the majority of the wealth on the planet, and the reason people are doing so well is because of us. And without white people, the world is going to go into a place of you know, like it's gonna go back to like the medieval fucking era.
Can I tell you a interesting thing I found out the other day? So the BC Liberals were caught in I'm sorry, I'm just pulling something out here. Were caught in money laundering schemes, and they were somehow related with the fentanyl overdose crisis in British Columbia. And I think it's the Chinese who are bringing in the fentanyl. And right now, the BC West Coast is out of control, like Victoria and stuff. Bad drug epidemic there and stuff, and money laundering problems. But yeah, I seen something where the Liberals were had their hands in money laundering to Chinese gangs and stuff. And it doesn't surprise me at this point in time because of the amount of corrupt stuff they're doing to this country. I honestly think they're all puppets bought and paid for by other foreign governments directed to destroy the country from within for money. And I think we've been completely betrayed and sold out.
Oh no, we have been. It's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. You know, we're just too open to the world. Our government's way too open. It's too easy for people to take advantage of us. But anytime you bring up removing any of these things, liberals lose their shit. And then the media spins a narrative being like, oh, you're a racist if you want to take away birthright citizenship because this is just going to apply to brown people, and you want less brown people. You want to make Canada more white. That's the whole thing, right? And that's what Nancy Pelosi said about Trump a while ago. She's like, oh, Trump wants to make America white again, and this is a direct reason why his policies are doing this. And it's like, yeah, exactly. We do want to make America more white again and Canada more white again. All that means is give Canada back to the people who fucking built it, who it belongs to. My ancestors fucking came here and helped create Canada, not these other people's ancestors. So they have no fucking right to Canada and its wealth and what it created. It's me and my ancestors and you and your kids and their kids. They have first say on what and how Canada is treated, not some fucking immigrant that comes here for 1 year and becomes a citizen. No, they should not be allowed. Not some fucking refugee who is now the immigration minister deciding he's going to bring in all of these people, all these Somalis into Canada. You know, that's bullshit. We need, you know, it needs to end immediately, and it's not racist.
Can I pause you something for a second? A thought came to my head. So recently I was walking around town in these Syrian women and refugees. You can tell that the males or the men abuse their women just by how they present themselves and everything. Usually you can tell a person by who they are by how they present themselves. When I'm out and going around town and stuff, I notice that there's a lot of them around, these hijabs, and a lot of these women look intimidated, severely abused. Like there's something not right with how they openly behave in public, right? They seem like they're just trying to, because if they interact with the wrong guy, then, or someone or whatever, then they could get in trouble. And it appears to me that these Muslim men who bring their women over have abused them, and you can see it in their behavioral pattern just in public. Just by walking out in public, you can see how they interact with their environment, that something's not right.
Right. Well, yeah, it's obvious that's what's happening to them, but you know, the only people that are going to ignore that are brain dead fucking liberals that, you know, want to believe all cultures are the same and equal, and or that, you know, Western, oh, we're just as bad as them. How could you talk about stoning women in these countries and making them wear hijabs? You're just as bad. Have you heard of the Me Too movement in Canada and America and all that? You know, we're just as bad as these people. You know, that's all they're gonna say. They're gonna bring up, oh, but we do crime too. Well, you beat women too. Well, Harvey Weinstein and Trump said grab her by the pussy. Blah 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 blah. That is their argument to when you bring up, hey, these women are being forced to wear hijabs. They're being beaten. All this stuff. Well, you beat women too. There's problems here too. So you're like, ugh, there's no reaching these people. They're brain dead. And it's like the only way to wake up some people is for them to, I don't know, get fucked, get to go to Sweden and get their head cut off, or I mean, go to some African country like those Norwegian.
Well, it's already here, man. It's like you don't have to go overseas. It's already here. The threat is here. It's very real. When I go out in public, I gotta watch my back. Like I'm always, you know, even though people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. You got nothing to worry about." I'm very alarmed because I've seen these people are everywhere, right? They've spread out everywhere. They're not in. They end up moving out of cities because of the same reason why we're not there. We can't get affordable housing, too big and stuff. And a lot of these groups will move out of the cities. And I've talked to a few churches and I've done my research, and a lot of them, they'll end up in the city and then they'll move out to remote communities, and they end up everywhere. And it's starting to become where our communities are not safe anymore, and it's noticeable. So even though I live up north, right, in a town of around 30,000, they're there. There's a lot of them there. And before, I used to recognize all my neighbors and be like, hey, I know this person or blah, 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 right? Whatever. There's all of these complete strangers just show up out of nowhere. It feels like it's really bizarre. It's like you don't feel safe. I've seen some stuff happen in public, so where there's been altercations and stuff between immigrants, not like full, just, you know, like they just don't belong here and they just don't get along. And there's probably been lots of violence behind closed doors, but the mainstream media won't report on that. So
look at Jon Snow. AJ, weren't you saying the other day that you didn't mind getting beat up by drug dealers? That's what you heard. Oh, God. No, man, it's not what I said. You bastard, Jon Snow guy. You takes my shit out of context. But yeah, you know, I don't know. It's getting worse, and it's gonna get worse by the day. But you know, if anybody has, everybody hit the like button. If you have not hit the like button already, share this, share the chat. I'm probably gonna close it up pretty soon. It's getting pretty late. I've been on.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing before I exit the call here. Is the problems are so diverse. You got to look at things from a 360-degree perspective, right? Everything's going to be different. And if you look at all the problems that this government is causing and you look at it from every single perspective and degree, it's absolutely destroying this country. And it's really worrisome. Like, I'm actually up at night losing sleep over what's happening because it's noticeable. One more thing too is they have done so many things to erode this country. Have done bad things that you can't keep track. It's like you could write a Bible like a book as thick as a Bible, and there's still more things that they're doing to undermine us, and they're just tricksters. That's what they are. They're doing it very cleverly, but the best thing to do is look at things of a 360-degree perspective. Oh, and one more thing too. I keep saying that, but I believe Fort Mac was attacked. If you look at the fire map patterns and stuff, it's obvious. So
I can believe that.
Stuff happening to us left, right, and center, and it's because of this government. So anyway, go ahead and then finish and I'm gonna hop off. So hey, thanks for letting me come into the call.
Yeah, not a problem, man. Enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. You know, I finally got this thing going on.
I'm gonna hang up. Okay, man. Thank you.
Take it easy. Have a good one, man. No, come back. Come back. No. Okay. Give me $20 and I'll hit the like twice. No, you're supposed to give me money. You're supposed to give me money. Not the opposite. Fort Mac directed energy weapons. Yeah. You know, I could believe it's probably set up, or that it was just incompetence, like, you know, those California fires that went on in America and killed all those people, like, could have been easily prevented with just a little bit of maintenance and whatnot. But, you know, they didn't do that. And I think that was the case as well in some of the recent fires in Canada here too. No, I'm joking, man. Don't you have to pay me. I'm joking. Give me your money, please. Yeah. No, Mike Miller wanted me give him $20 to hit the like button. Like that's come on, man. That's it's just a click. I'm not gonna give you $20 to click the like button. Give you 20. Will you go buy a MAGA hat? Yeah, I'll buy. If you give me 20, I'll order a MAGA hat. If you give me $20, I will order a MAGA hat. Although I don't know where to order them from. I guess I don't know, look online if they're selling them somewhere. I'm not really sure where though, but I'm sure I could find it. I have no wrenches to sell. Fire and Calf were some of the deadliest in U.S. history. Yeah, they were, I think, the deadliest in U.S. history. And that could have all been prevented. And, you know, they got mad and they're laughing at Trump, who's saying that he was like, oh, rake the forest or whatever. But that was actually a technique that they did use to, you know, prevent forest fires. Okay, next time. No, not good enough, Jon Snow. Not good enough. I want it now. The stream is low IQ, dumb people, and their paranoia. Peace. All right, BM, have a good night, buddy. Buy a MAGA hat from China. It will be funny. Oh, yeah, that's true. That would be pretty funny, to be honest. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I want to support China at all. My dad fought World War II, and he told me that forced religion will spread around the world. Well, he's probably talking about Islam. I have a friend who lived in Weed Caliph and were evacuated. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, man. Like, a lot of people died. I saw a lot of these videos. There was one guy, he was going around videotaping all of these like skeletons in their cars, and he's like, oh my God, all these people died. Look at this person. There's like 2 skeletons. And he's like, I told this lady to leave, but she had to do her makeup, and now she's dead. And then he goes, and it's like another skeleton. You're like, holy fuck, man. Like, that was crazy. And all that could have been avoided. And all those lives could have been saved. I pissed off BM. Yeah, I know. Then they don't let them go back to their homes ever. Yeah, I did piss them off. Well, BM, you can go suck a baby penis. That's what I say. Like, after you circumcise it. You said it was Jewish. I know there's a sect of Jewish people that do that. They didn't evacuate them soon enough. Yeah. Don't let them go back to their homes ever. Yeah, it's fucked, man. It's fucked, and it's fortunate. A lot of those innocent people died, and it's really, you know. Oh, thank you, Fredrick. I really appreciate the donation. Thank you for coming on, though. I had a good discussion too, man. I really enjoyed that. You know, and I know you gave that to me because I completely destroyed you in that discussion. So, you know, I understand why you're giving me that, because, you know, I would feel like my pride would not. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you won. You won. You won. Check out a Planet Truth channel. California do fires and mentions Fort Mac as being intentional. You know, I could definitely believe it being intentional just to push the global warming, you know, shit that they constantly push. AJ, I go to the Veterans Day parade, and those active and vets all say Trudeau is fucked for letting in ISIS and Taliban Muslims. Yeah, I know, right? Like, you have to be a brain dead liberal to think it's a good idea. But you know what, guys? I think we are probably reaching the very end about here. But I want to thank everybody for joining me. Thank you for donating. Thank you for chatting. You know, hit the like button again. You know, share, whatnot, do all that fun stuff, and whatnot. Oh yeah, go to my Reddit. You know, AJ Elicits on my Reddit there. Just go, like, you know, type in AJ Elicits, and you'll find my feed thing, and then you could post stuff to there if you want. And you know, post stuff to there, then I can go look at it later and see news or whatnot. You know, who knows, maybe I can get it big at one point. I also got my what do you call it, this thing. Let me click on here for a sec. One sec. I forget what this is called. I always lose my train of thought. But you know, that thing where people do chats. Here, invite people. Discord. Yeah, that's what it is. Discord. Go to my Discord. AJ Elicits. Oh yeah, I'm on Minds and Gab as well. AJ Elicits. Go, you know, check out. You know, I haven't really used too much of Discord, but you know, if people start using it, posting shit, it's another thing that we could have discussions on. You know, bring up topics. You know, discuss things in the news. There's no possibility. Yeah, have a good night, man. Love A Bull Linny. Have your Discord. Okay, good. Yeah, AJ Elicits. You know, I don't know. Sometimes when I give out this, it says invite people, and it gives me a link to invite, and then it what do you call it? It still doesn't necessarily work all the time, but I'll do it again. I'll just, if that link didn't work, tell me if that link works. If this one didn't work, try this one. I have your Discord. Got to be careful on Discord with, yeah, that's true, right? Yeah, I know. That's the only thing, is the gay ops and shit, but I'm not really big enough to really, I think for that to really affect me too much at this moment. But maybe if it does, and people start trying to, like, I don't know, put information in there to smear me or discredit me, then I'll get rid of it or something. I don't know. Or make specific rules or whatnot. But yeah, I do have the Reddit as well. Gab Minds, I'm banned from Twitter permanently, so I can't use Twitter. So, you know, it sucks, unfortunately. Yeah, man, get download Discord. Engines Cummington. Yeah, Fredrick, what is your channel name? What is your channel name, Fredrick? I'm coming in. It worked? Okay, good. It worked. Nice. Perfect. Nice. Yeah, I'm building more people in here. That's good. You know, a lot of good Canadians. Fucking, I got the arena set up. So that's just, I don't know. And then politics, I just call it the arena. And I guess that's just general, you know, and then funny shit. I can make a lot more things afterwards, but you know, hey, I'll make some mods on there as well. I'll make some of you guys mods, and then you can make your own settings or whatnot. I forget. It's just like it's originally some gaming thing that gamers used to talk when they play video games, but now it's just being used as kind of like some thing that people talk on, or they can, you can actually have discussions on there, like talking like this, or just chatting, and you can do a bunch of random shit. Yeah, well, I'll make you probably an admin, because I don't know anything really about how to set up all that shit either. Right. So yeah, I'll go into that, but I got to make some phone calls and do some shit soon. So, thank you guys for joining me, and hit the like, subscribe, share, and have a great night. Take it easy, guys.